Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We are back with a pretty spicy little drop on the day, right? One Christian for Muslims, Islam or Christianity. So I think this is probably gonna be a pretty heated one. I already saw, I clicked to like one of the marks for like a quick half second, and I already saw that it's gonna get pretty heated, this conversation. So it should be a good one. We got a lot of time today, so we are going to react to this whole thing. So yeah, I hope you guys are ready. I was supposed to stream yesterday, but wasn't really feeling. Let's see. I had some other work that I wanted to get done instead, and so I was like, you know what? Again, wanted to give. I didn't want to just make a stream happen for the sake of making a stream happen. I had other work that I needed to do, but we are back today, and like I said, we have a spicy 1v4, one Christian for Muslims. Yeah, man, I think this is gonna be a great watch. Because it's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be a great watch because it's gonna be so bad. I was at like the 46-minute mark, and I heard IP say trying to make attacks about women in Islam, and so it's just the classic like Facebook level nonsense, right? They have no actual data to support any of this. They just retrofit narratives from the Quran, trying to make it seem like Islam is a oppressive religion to women. We already actually have a video about that. We have a quick reaction from another conversation. I think we were reviewing like Muslim Lantern versus Muhammad Hijab. We were talking about are women oppressed in Islam? And so we already know that this is a bunch of nonsense, right? We already know that this whole notion of women being oppressed in Islam is just again Facebook level nonsense. It's totally just just fake narrative. It's just buzzwords, right? Trying to convince people that of something that's just not the truth, right? So anyways, hold on. I need to grab a water. Just give me 1 second, and then we're gonna hop right into it today. Yeah. This is an hour and a half, so this is probably going to take me 3 hours to get through. So yeah, might as well just hop in. We're probably going to want to put some level of a playback speed, just so we can make sure we can get through the whole thing.
To allow for the unalived, not in
it's like
flourishing in Spain should be so you
better
We have to,
society than Islam.
I obviously say yes. And when we assert that, we have.
So I guess the first question was, does Christianity produce a better society than Islam? I mean, we have degenerative content online with women, right? I mean, Instagram is just, softcore porn, for lack of a better term. And it's the gateway to zina, just on that front, right? There's obviously a drug epidemic in this country with the homeless population, but also inside people's houses too, right? Especially like young working people. We have a skin fetish in this country. Like everyone just wants to show off their skin. Even children, it's really disgusting. And we literally are just lust over skin in this country. We have a horrible leadership, political leadership for sure. And I mean, you can say that about other Sunni countries, honestly, sadly for that to be true. Sad for that to be true. And so, yeah, it's with a country being so large, you would expect, there to be, unfortunately, disjointedness. So, I mean, I wouldn't attribute that 100% to Christianity, but just look what it's produced, right? Look what it's produced on the whole. And also, if we want to go back even further, right? Shout out to, the early Islamic philosophers who helped inspire the Renaissance in Europe. So, in the Enlightenment period, a lot of that is credited to their work. But yeah, let's see. Let's just, instead of giving my own yap, let's hear what they have to say.
Or society than Islam.
I obviously say yes. And when we assert that, we have to, I'm hoping today we can touch on several topics. Because there are several things to look at when we're looking at these different religions and knowing which is going to produce better results. And that's the key here, which is going to produce better results. So whole well-rounded thing here. So we're not talking about which we think is more moral. We're not talking about which we think is true. We're talking about which religion is going to produce better societies. And in terms of several metrics, Christianity just outperforms Islam on many, many, many important things. So I will start with 3. I'm hoping to get to more because there's a bunch of things. So I would say, first of all, Islam allows and promotes child marriage. That is extremely bad for society.
I mean, there's 300,000 child marriages in like the year 2023, 2024 in America. So trying to say it promotes it, right? It happens in America. Like 250,000 people, there was child marriages in America in like 2023, 2024. And so ultimately, and also like that wasn't even counting data from like California. So, I mean, that's already just completely wrong.
That leads to harm done to girls, harm to their offspring, which leads to inferior society.
Talking about like the thing is like he's talking about results, right? He's making an assertion that's not based in results, and then we can actually look at the data that's happening in the United States.
Islam also allows cousin marriage. Christianity, because of our ecclesiology, has gotten rid of cousin marriage. So that means that we have produced better societies because more.
You're done with these debates for a while. It's better to use much time to focus on learning about Islam. Yeah, don't worry. I spend a majority of my time learning about it. Thank you for your suggestion, though. Jazakallah khair.
Cousin marriage leads to lower IQ, more birth defects, and actually less economic prosperity. And the third thing
if you want to check out like more learning stuff, I've been posting shorts about some of this stuff about names of Allah. Unfortunately the editing system was not working yesterday. But yeah, I'm gonna have another short about that soon. I'm also gonna have another short about hadith of the day. So yeah, don't worry. Like we produce a lot of educational content, but yeah, we are gonna watch this. So if this is not your cup of tea, then no worries, brother. Thank you for joining.
Bring up is actually the practice of polygyny. Islam does allow polygyny, but polygyny actually deteriorates society. If you don't know, polygyny is specifically it's a form of polygamy where it's one man and multiple women. So polygamy can be one woman, several men, but polygyny is one man, several women. So those 3 things are 3 ways in which that Christianity has done away with through trial and error, through understanding of the natural world, through understanding of.
I mean, again, if we look at the results, if we're calling this country a Christian country, even though it's a secular country, it's still 50% divorce rate. So again, this guy's just saying, it's funny how he's going like, okay, like we're going to talk about results, but then if you actually just look at the data, everything that he's saying is thrown out the window.
How we operate as a society, which has produced far better results. So dive in.
Who wants to begin? Okay, yeah, so when
Walaikum salam.
Comes to the 3 critiques, I think obviously this needs some time to dissect. It's very general. There's a lot of data that we need to process. But to begin, what we're trying to compare is obviously what we're establishing is that we have Islam, we have Christianity. If implemented in society, which one yields the better results, right? In terms of moral values that we can both agree upon, right? Now, when it comes to the first one, you said, not only did you say that when we have Muslims that would practice child marriage, you specifically said that Islam allows it. So I want to really focus on that. Where did you get the understanding from that Islam allows child marriage, given the fact that the Messenger, peace and blessing upon him, explicitly says in an authentic narration, لا ضرر ولا ضرار, no harm, no reciprocating harm. So the Messenger already explicates and says that when it comes to any relationship, if there is harm involved, it's going to be impermissible. So how do you get around that? Now, if you're going to argue that a more fundamentalist approach of the Quran and the Sunnah would allow for this, rather than a traditional approach.
The thing is, I understand they're going to be looking at like the details. It's just like you could have easily just said some data like I just said right now and just put it on the back heel, but all right, like let's look at these results. Let's look at these numbers, right? Unfortunately, it's going to become a philosophical argument here.
That's a different argument, but you specifically said that Islam allows for it. So what would be the evidence for that?
So yeah, great. So yeah, let's start with that. So with regarding the harm principle to start, that's obviously interpreted differently because, for example, Sahih al-Bukhari allows for the killing of apostates, but that's going to harm them, but you're not going to throw that out. You're going to allow self-defense wars in Islam, but that's going to cause harm to invaders, so that's obviously going to be interpreted differently.
That's not about children.
The 2 main ways we know that Islam allows and promotes child marriage is with the Quran says that Muhammad is the pattern of conduct, but he married Aisha when she was 6 and consummated the marriage when she was 9. That is a child. There's no biological way that could not be a child. Therefore, it allows child marriage. And then, of course, Surah 65:4, which does allow girls.
Beautiful. Do you guys want to jump in, or should I continue?
You've been shaking your head. What did you want to say?
Well, I mean, I have many things to say. First of all, Islam does not in any way, shape, fashion, or form support any idea of pedophilia or underage marriage. Islam does not support anything like that at all. The Quran gives an age of marriage. It is very clear. It gives something called an age of marriage. And that age of marriage is when you reach puberty, essence. Okay.
Puberty. So puberty
Yeah.
is when you mature. Has a 9-year-old ever completed puberty?
Sure.
Really? According to what?
Sure. I mean, this is life. These are things that happen.
Yeah, when you look at, for example, the classical text that he quoted, Bukhari himself has a narration where Aisha radiallahu anha refers to herself as a woman, right? So if you wanna like internally critique our sources regarding what it says, regarding when the marriage happens,
You
so
say
on and so forth.
internal or external?
Internal.
I'm not. This is external critique. This is definitely external
How do
critique.
you come to conclude that the marriage was at 6 and 9?
Because that's what your sources teach.
Beautiful.
But then you're also saying she's not.
I mean, yeah, like, you know, if you just rip open the cover of, you know, what's happening, like I have I've talked about this before, but you know, I have this, like, you know, teacher. He's not a sheikh, he's not a scholar, but you know, he's someone who's very active at a local masjid. Very smart guy. He actually is a professor at a college, funny enough, in like mathematics and artificial intelligence, and you know, he's been, you know, one of the, you know, main board members of this one local masjid for a very long time, and it's a very large masjid as well. And you know, it's funny. He said that he went to he went to whatever that state is, where the Pope is. God, I can't remember. But yeah, he went to a bunch of different Catholic churches, and he said that there was like cemeteries there, right? There were cemeteries like inside these churches or like behind these churches or whatever in these Catholic churches, where, you know, there was a practice of, you know, these, you know, popes or these, you know, bishops, whatever, you know, like the hierarchy of the church system was or is, and after they would like do the deed, right? I'm not going to go into details what that means. They would then ultimately, you know, unalive the child, right? And so again, you know, it's stones from a glass house, as always.
Child, and I'm saying that's just incompatible with reality.
Okay,
There
I
is
see.
no such thing as a 9-year-old woman. The hips on a girl do not develop until the ages of 15 or 17. Puberty is not complete. There is no possible world where it's biologically the case a 9-year-old could be anything but a child.
Okay. Would you say that in order to be able to conceive and bear children, etc., you would have to have gone through some of the stages of puberty?
You would have to go through all the stages of puberty. So, for
Okay,
example,
good.
there was a
Wait.
cross-sectional study done that actually showed that girls who were 15 and under had 4 times higher the rate of death in childbirth.
Okay, so you said that it's never happened where this was the case, right?
There's no case where a 9-year-old could have completed puberty, no.
Okay, but hold on 1 second. I'm saying for somebody to get pregnant, they would have had to have gone through all the stages, correct?
No, they have to go through at least standard stage 4, because at the end of standard stage 4
Would
is when
you
they have
consider
puberty.
that person to be pubescent or prepubescent?
Have they had their first period?
I'm saying they got pregnant.
I
so
mean,
they would
also, like, okay, like, I don't think, like, the other thing is, like, I understand that they try to use this as a gotcha moment, and yeah, you know, it's like, just for the truth of the matter is, right, you know, we could be pretty honest on the fact that, you know, it's not perfect, right, it's not great, but, you know, that's just what society was for the majority of society, right? Like, you know, things really didn't change where there's these, like, you know, laws about, like, you know, girls' specific age, even like hundreds of years after, like, with especially in Christianity, right? Like, there wasn't even a legal minimum for age, specifically like age, right? Like 12 and 14 years old, 12 for women, 14 for boys, until like the 12th century in Christianity. But then on top of that, right, now we have these higher standards of like 18 or 16, depending on the state or country that you live in, sometimes 14, right? Whatever it may be, right? But on the whole, right, in the 21st century, this is like a non-argument. We, like, Muslims agree about this, Christians agree about this. He's trying to argue something that we agree with them, that we don't agree with child marriages, and obviously we have laws that we follow in society, right? Now, sure, if he wants to give the point that this is a Christian law, fair enough, right? You know, that's fair. But at the same point, right, you know, the Quran explicitly says, right, that like, puberty has to occur. If he wants to argue that the safeguarding of certain ages, then fine. You know, I think that's a fair point, right? But then also, you know, we have like 14th century Islamic scholars that were also saying that, you know, the Quran was essentially the bare minimum when it came to law, and that it would, you know, like society would continue to improve and add more laws and be stricter with certain things over time, right? Because society, like, there was understanding that society would develop. But yeah, again, you know, it's a little disingenuous when this gets argued, because it's like, yeah, no Muslim person would dare to say, you know, that child marriage is okay.
Already
If they
have
got
their period.
pregnant, then they're post-pubescent. Yes.
Good. So there's an example. I don't know if you know who it is. Her name is Lena Medina. She was 5 years old when she first got pregnant. Obviously, we don't agree with the means that she got pregnant by, but it's to show that it is the case that this is something that could still happen. Right?
Okay, I got a question.
And this is
about
something that happened more
I got a
modernly.
question. So you said if they have their period, they're a woman, they're an adult, they're post-pubescent. Was that 5-year-old an adult?
Yeah, so insofar as what I asked you, I was asking you in regards to what your criteria is that you're establishing. Right now, I don't think there is a criteria that you're actually giving in regards to what is considered to be a child, what is considered to be
Okay,
adult.
I'll give it.
So,
I'll give it.
Okay.
You have to complete puberty. That is not completed till 15 to 17. That's why we as a society, we assign adulthood to the age of 18. Anything under 18 is a child. That 5-year-old is not a woman. She's a child. She should not be married off.
Okay.
So how do you respond to the argument from
But yeah,
natural?
trying to say that society has 18 years old, that's not true. That's not true in the West, right? That's not true in the East. It's not a golden standard of 18 years old. So, I mean, that's just not true.
Law, which we see that, for example, Paul appeals to within Romans and Corinthians, that we can look at nature to be able to come to reason. And we see that there was no critique of this specific marriage of Muhammad والسلام, prior to the 19th century, which means that nobody prior to the 19th century made that critique, although he was criticized for other things, right? Other critics have made other points regarding it, but nobody made it regarding the marriage between him and Aisha radiallahu anha. So if you conclude that we both agree on the standard of natural law and coming to reason through nature and what God has instilled in us through who we are as human beings.
Yeah, what would be interesting would be, like, you know, seeing countries that do have Muslim countries that have a strict 18-year-old policy. Turkey, I know for sure, has one where you have to be 18 years old to get married. Saudi might be 18 or 16, one of the two. But there's like a good like number, like 10, 12, 15 Muslim countries where the age of marriage has to be 18, right? And so it would be interesting as a comparison, like if you were to take the numbers like by population, like how many child marriages there are in those countries versus America, right? Because yeah, if there was like 300,000 child marriages, right, in America, like what is that, like 0.1%, whatever it may be. So I mean, yeah, I mean it's I think that data would be interesting to see.
And would agree
Then
that
it would come down to like, okay, what is the actual results? Because that's what he was trying to go for. He was trying to go for the results, and now he's trying to argue like a philosophical, emotional argument here.
we would expect that if it was the case that it was wholly immoral during that time, how come we don't have that critique part
So
in the 19th
I
century?
got where you're coming from. Okay, so here's the first problem. Practically, a lot of the hadith were not known in the Western world. So that's the first problem. The second thing is Muhammad is supposed to be the pattern of conduct for Muslims, for people in all times. And he's supposed to be getting divine revelation from God. Yet he's a girl. That's evil. That's setting a bad example for humanity. And this doesn't matter. All this shows at the end of the day is Muhammad was a product of the corrupt, backwards culture of his time. We now have the scientific evidence to know that is wrong, and it should never have been prescribed.
I mean, again, like, dude, like, hold up. All right, I mean, look, like, here's the thing. Age of marriage in the church, 12th century. Right. Yeah. Let's see. Girls. Women. '11th, 12th centuries, the ability to have family kin, age, with marriage, forbidden degrees, monogamy. Moreover, the position let's see, marriage. All right, I'll have to find it. Let's see. Canon law, age limits in marriage. So yeah, it was raised to 16, but this was in the 80s. What was the 12th century? Or was it 11th century? To 6 cousins. Yeah, that's funny. I just read. Let's see. He was talking about keeping the family right. So the church sent down many rules about one who could marry, mostly based on blood relation. Marriage between first cousins or closer cousins was forbidden, as marrying one's in-laws. It says send prohibited to the 6th cousin. All right, so yeah, they did prohibit cousins in the 12th century. All right, mashallah. Marriage between first cousins or closer was forbidden. Marrying for love was rare. Let's see. Virginity was considered an important virtue. Young women sometimes had to submit physical examinations. I mean, yeah. I mean, right? And so, I mean, if he's talking about like barbaric, right? I mean, you know, this was stuff that was happening in the 12th and 11th century, right? I'll have to pull up the source for where it says 11 or 12 and 14. Oh yeah, right here. Here we go. According to canon law, the minimum age for marriage was 12 or 14, and was 12, and men 14. However, many marriages occurred even at younger ages, especially for girls. Right? The average age at a first marriage for nobility was 17 for women, and so yeah, this is when, but this was in the 15th century, right? So yeah, I mean, you know, this, so yeah. Betrothals could be made with the bride as young as 12 years old. And so this was 11th century, right? So this was like, you know, 400, 500 years after the Quran. And so, you know, when you see these like, oh, you know, there wasn't even a minimum age at the time. You know, for 400 or 500 years after the introduction of the Quran. And so, yeah, you know, if we were going based off of, you know, like their, you know, beginning laws, right? You like the same argument that Christians make. You could say the exact same thing, and then, you know, but then it's like, right? Christianity has developed new laws over time because just population evolved, and so you could say the exact same thing with Islam. But anyways, we'll continue.
By some sort of apparently omniscient deity. Apparently. Right,
so what your response is that actually the reason why we don't see that critique is because there is no access to the ahadith at that point. First of all, that's not even true.
I didn't say that. I said that practically. I said it's a pragmatic aspect.
Right, like on a mass scale, right?
Yeah, on a mass scale.
However, we know that there is a lot of critiques that were raised against Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And amongst those critiques, none of them were regarding the marriage. So the argument will still follow. Why? Because we do have the critiques, meaning that people have access to the Quran, people have access to the Sunnah, such as John of Chrysostom, for example, who critiques Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam in his writings. Yeah, we don't find a critique about child marriage, right? So we still see that you saying that it wasn't widely accessible is irrelevant. Why? Because we have a big sample data where there's a lot of critiques regarding it, and not a single one pattern in the 19th century.
So let's go on that. So we're conflating two things: the natural with what, as Immanuel Kant said, out of the crooked timber of humanity, nothing straight has ever grown. I agree. There were plenty of humans in the past that believed bad, corrupt, wrong things. They're not the standard. Like the Quran says, Muhammad. Hold on, let me finish. I'll let you finish. They're not the standard. They're not getting their information from omnipotent God. We now know today this is wrong. This is bad. The temporal lobes are not even developed in a 9-year-old to properly communicate or express or understand activity. So if you're messing her up mentally. Not only can you all these physical problems, it's also mentally bad. It's socially bad. This is not good for anyone. We know that now. So Islam is allowing this. You guys are kind of defending it, which I'm shocked. It's child marriage. We should just reject everyone out here. Should be outright, yes, child marriage is wrong. It should be abolished around the world.
We literally agree. We literally, before we began, we clarified that.
I was like, dude, I don't think they understand that we literally agree with that.
Islam, we don't believe there's something known as child marriage. Right? We already clarified that.
So,
Now,
but I said child under the age of 18. Do you agree a child is under the age of 18?
No,
Right. Again.
that's subjective.
Okay,
Right,
then we don't.
so now we
You don't
switch.
think child marriage should be outlawed?
Real quick, but hold on. You switched it because a second ago you said that someone who's an adult is someone that completed puberty and that could have.
Hold on, I think he's from Canada. Or let's see, where is he from? You have to check his state. we gotta check his state what the age of consent is, because there's many states in the U.S. or if he's from Canada, like it's 16 years old, a lot of the time.
Between 15 and 17. Now all of a sudden you're saying under 18. So I'm very confused on which time you want.
Let me clarify.
Just let me finish. Now, regarding Islam, our stance is very simple. Islam is going to be dependent upon the circumstances of the individuals. Meaning, if it was the case that at a specific point in time, it wouldn't entail physical or mental harm, and someone would have been post-pubescent and fully mature, then the marriage can be done, right? However, if it is going to entail, such as today, and this is the people according to Peter D. Glockman, when he mentioned this, if it is going to entail harm today, meaning that people can attain pubescence, but they don't attain monarchy, right? It is going to be a case that today would entail harm, therefore would not be allowed Islamically. It's very simple. Now, regarding your point regarding how, we know that there's humans around the world that have justified bad things happening in society. Well, the thing is, we're talking about a universal aspect, meaning that all humans, everyone who's critiquing Muhammad, none of them recognize this something that's inherently abhorrent.
Well, hold up. You've been going for a while. Let me address all these points. Finish up. You got 20 seconds.
Paul is the one that appeals to natural law. Obviously, we know that when it comes to natural law, when it comes to knowing these things that are known by disposition, they are known prior to revelation, right? So if it is the case that they're known prior to revelation, we'd expect at least someone to make that critique.
Okay, now I'm going to respond. You've talked for a while. I'm going to go on for a couple minutes here. So first of all,
He maybe went for like 45 seconds. Like, I'm gonna go on for a couple minutes. You can see the rage in this guy's face. And here's the thing: if he actually cared about child marriage, right? That here's the most, like someone said, like, you know, Christianity hypocritical, whatever it may be. Like, if he actually cared about child marriage, right? Go be a hero and go talk to your Congress people and end child marriages, right, in the United States, because it happens like hundreds of thousands. Like, I think in like 2023 or 2024, like, it's something that still happens today in a supposedly Christian country, right? You know, it's still and it's unfortunate, right, where you're put in this position to even argue about something so stupid, right? You know, but he's trying to put the heat under Islam without understanding that it's a practice that's happening in his country today, right? Happening in a country that he calls a Christian country. And so none of it's right on any side of the pendulum, but at the same time, right, this is not a problem that's only attributed to Islam, right? This is a society problem, right? This is a problem that's happening in America, right? This is a problem that has now, you know, been even raised to some of the highest levels with the Epstein files, right? Like, this is something that happens, you know, and it's a huge issue. And he's trying to pinpoint it directly and solely on Islam, when that's obviously not the case, right? Christianity promotes it. It promotes a super degenerative society where the elites feel like they can do, you know, child trafficking, as well as marriages are happening. Like marriages are happening in this country, which is all horrible.
not everyone around the world had access to the Hadith. Okay, there's a problem here. It's not like we had a big
Walaikum salam.
global community and all voted, I think Muhammad was bad, this happened in 1857. No, it did not happen. So this is, you're appealing to something that just did not happen. So let's go back to me trying to tell you what a child is here. Let's start with this, because we need to get over this, okay? So no puberty is complete between the ages of 15 or 17. We can't.
Like, people that have access to these, I mean, come on. Like, that's ridiculous.
As a society, constantly be going around checking hip development, Tanner stage 5 development. That is impractical. So we just assign adulthood to the age of 18. That's still far better than 9. That's the problem right there. Now, if you want to talk to what ancient people did, we can talk about that. So Michael Satlow, talking about the ancient Jews in Palestine, said they were marrying girls on average between the ages of mid-teens to early 20s. Amram Troper says late teens to early 20s. Brent Shaw in the Roman Empire, he says late teens to early 20s, so does Keith Hopkins. Then you get to the Middle Ages. Kim Phillips in her book Medieval Maiden says again, yeah, that's the thing. So it was not a normal practice to be marrying a 6-year-old, let alone. This is evil, and if Muhammad is the pattern of conduct, that's setting a bad example. That's going to lead to all sorts of harm, as it has around the world. UNICEF reports high levels of child marriage in North Africa, in the Middle East. This is horrible. We are
torturing. But what's happening in this country too? I mean, yeah, it's like they totally forget that it's like it also happens in Western countries too.
these girls. Why would we not want to reject that and say, yes, child marriage should be outlawed around the world. No one should be getting married.
All right, here, this is what he's saying. Child marriage should be outlawed around the world. Right. You know, obviously this is the most credible, source. But child marriage defined by the United Nations as marriage in which at least one party is under 18 years old occurs legally in the United States, right? The United States is the only UN member that has not yet, we're the only member, the United States is the only member in the UN that has not yet ratified the Convention of Rights of Children. How is that even possible? That's crazy. Its Committee on the Rights of Children reaffirms that the minimum age limit should be 18 years old for marriage within the United States. Each state and territory, as well as Washington, D.C., sets its own marriage age in jurisdiction, right? And so there's been over 315,000 minors in the past 20 years, right? As of May 2026, child marriage is legal in 33 states. 33 states. That's what I'm saying, man. If he was actually like truly genuine about his statements, if he actually really cared about this. That's the thing. They just say this because it's great for YouTube clicks, right? If he actually had an issue with this, the way he's being very performative right now, and maybe he's not being performative, right? Maybe that's an overstep. But then it's like, dog, go fight the power, man. Go fight the power of the country that you live in, man. like, dude, it's happening in this country. You know, like, go be brave and go do some real good to help, like, change the law, right?
Around the ages of under the ages of 18. And yes, if you're going to bring up random U.S. states that allow it, I condemn them as well.
Hold on, guys. Did you know that over 80% of people that watch these videos are not subscribed?
That's better.
Now let's get back to the discussion.
The topic is, right, Christianity
That's such a weird way to, anyways.
versus Islam, which one's better for society. So what he's saying to you in regard.
Yeah, it's legal in over 2/3 of the states. Right, it's legal in over 2/3 of the United States. It can still happen today. As of May 2026.
To Paul appealing to natural law, etc., that's going to be the criteria that we're going by here, right? We're going by Christianity versus Islam. Islam itself doesn't give a particular age; it gives a criteria. Christianity
And I say
does.
that's bad.
One second.
I say that's bad.
Christianity also does the same thing. It doesn't give a particular age. Okay. I think you appeal sometimes to Ezekiel 16. There's also the passage in 1 Corinthians 7, right? Neither of those two gives an age. They only give a physical, or
Let me address that.
I'm not done.
Okay, finish up. I want to address the passages you brought up.
Okay, so I'm not appealing to the passages in particular, by the way. But my point being is that in you saying there's a particular age that we have to go by, etc., well, that age is not something that's going to hold up in regards to society for every single society. As he quoted for you from Peter D. Gluckman's paper, menarche and mental maturity is something which used to be in line at some point, and now what we find is a fluctuation between the two of them, whereby in today's society, we don't find them being the same. They're going to be vastly...
And so, if IP was smart, but again, he would still be wrong, right? But if he was smart, he would say, because of Christianity, this has resulted in 18 years old consent, right? Or 18 years old marriage in America, right? Like, that should be his argument. He's trying to argue, like, he said that the first thing he said is that this needs to be a result, like, just quick refresher. He was like, you need to look at the results of both the religions and how, like, what happens in society. And the problem is that he's not looking at the results. He's arguing about just the like the text itself, right? And that's what they're going to. They're appealing to the text. They're not even talking about the results of Muslim countries or Christian countries or whatever it may be. He kind of talked about North Africa for a little bit, but one thing, if he was halfway smart in this situation, and it's hard when you're in a debate that you get a little lost in the weeds, but he would say, and of course hindsight's 20/20, but he would say, because of America, because of Christianity, we have 18-year-old marriages. But again, as we know, the issue with that is that it's wrong. Like it's still legal in 33 states.
Different.
Right.
He didn't think about the counterattack. You know, he obviously did. He's ran this playbook so many times. He's ran this playbook way too many times.
Go ahead.
Okay, so
Yeah.
hold on. Let me address her, then we'll go to you. So so on this whole issue. So yes, I agree that it doesn't set an age, but Ezekiel 16 says that you cannot. The age for love making does not happen until after she has basically completed puberty. The breasts are fully formed, her hair is fully grown. She has to
Which
complete it.
translation is
Hold on,
this?
let me finish. Let me
Right.
finish. So that's the issue right there. But again, at the end of the day, we're talking about the effects of society. Christian societies are outlawing this. We don't see 9-year-olds getting married in America. We don't
see 9-year-olds getting married in America. Dude, that's a bunch of cap. That's a bunch of cap, right? So here's the next thing, right? In California, for instance, the general marriage age is 18, but children may be married with parental consent and judicial approval with no minimum age limit. As of May 2026, the lower minimum age when all exceptions are taken into account. 3 states have no minimum age, possibly 0, but minimum ages for 12 and 4 are under common law, that's what we saw is the Christian law. This is the Christian law. 2 states have minimum age of 15, 20 states 16, 8 states 17, 17 states of 18, right? It's just weird that we're even talking about this, to be honest. But it's unfortunate because, you know, he's just making up lies, right? So you got to look at the data.
don't see it happening here. This is bad. But you guys over here are saying, yes, we
But I hope, if it isn't clear enough, like, his energy, I totally agree with it. Like, of course, you know, it's absolutely disgusting that we live in a country that even allow, like, you know, we have Congress people at the highest levels, you know, people in, you know, the shadow government, whatever you want to call it, working on trafficking children. Like, it's horrible. It needs to be stopped. It's, you know, it's just disgusting how degenerative societies always prey on children. And so, you know, this is just the truth, right? Like, of course. But on top of that, it's not an Islam specific problem. Like, that's what I'm trying to get to. It's horrible. It's disgusting. It must end, but it's not an Islam specific problem. And if he was actually genuine, he would be more outraged about the U.S. government and what they've done.
Perfectly fine to take a girl to...
We
should be okay with
already
that.
said that we shouldn't do that because of the studies that we've shown.
And also, it's like, dude, like, why does he keep like being so graphic about it?
And you're not responding to it
Yeah,
for some reason.
Can you have sex?
Nobody should be having intercourse with someone who's 9 years old because
So
that
Muhammad was a sinner.
No, it doesn't
Insofar
follow.
as today.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't
No, it
follow.
doesn't.
You know why it doesn't follow? Because at that point, it didn't entail harm.
Yes, it did.
Okay, and I'm giving you a reason why it didn't.
Yes, it did.
Can you address that? According to Peter D. Gluckman.
What's the name of the paper?
Development.
Evolution, development, and
yeah.
timing of puberty.
Right.
Exactly, beautiful.
Yeah.
And he makes the conclusion in his graph that there was a point when menarche and pubescence were in correlation. That is no longer the case.
No, you're confusing. You're confusing the chart. The chart is age of menarche and social cycle development.
Exactly.
That's the point, though.
Were they matching at some point?
What was that? Yeah, they were.
Are they
Yeah.
matching? Are they matching today?
No, they're not. No, but that's not the point.
Thank
the
you.
point is that
It's beautiful. He just conceded, and then that's not the point.
the point is that the green on the chart, what you're pulling up there, the green shows when age of menarche happened. And at that time, they're saying, well, you know, the girls didn't need that much education at that time to develop. So they could be more implemented in society quicker. But now we have more education because it's better for them. Thank good for the West promoting more education. Amen to
And
that.
Islam.
So
And Islam,
so let's go on to that. So, but that's the
Yeah, and Islam, dude, come on, this guy.
problem. Age of menarche did not happen according to that paper at 9. There is no possible.
That's
Hold on, let me
That's
finish.
literally
Let me
straw
finish.
man.
Let me finish.
Go ahead, go
There's no possible way that Aisha could have.
Bro, I mean, mate, yo, jeez. It's just crazy how people get so worked up about this, right? And again, he's blaming Islam on this entire issue, right? It's just disingenuous because this is truly happening in the United States.
Reached puberty could have had her first period at 9, according to the paper you cited, because that shows it had to happen after the age of 10, and that was at least 1% only.
Wait, hold on. So you agreed with me earlier when I first asked you in regards to somebody getting pregnant, they would have to have their period first, right?
Yes, and Aisha couldn't.
Okay, but I gave you an example. You said it's an impossibility. Is it logically impossible
Is it logically impossible for what?
for somebody to not have their period before 9 or at 9?
No, wait, hold on. What are you saying? This doesn't
You said
follow what I was
it's
saying.
impossible for her to have had her period by then, correct?
Biologically, yes.
Okay, and I gave you an example of today.
Today,
Modern
today,
day,
yes.
Yeah, modern day, a girl who's at the age of 5 had her period and she was pregnant as well.
Yeah,
So it's not impossible.
So basically, what you're saying is there was this crazy genetic.
She's not
fluke.
the only. No, it's not the only thing.
The
I'm giving you an
reason why that can
example.
happen.
Yeah, and he's. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, you know, like, it's just so bizarre how, you know, they. Anyways, we'll just move on. I don't even want to discuss this.
Days, because according to the paper you cited,
Right.
nutrition has gotten better. And if nutrition got better, that means the age of anarchy starts to lower. But in the time of Muhammad, it wasn't. It was higher.
Really?
So yeah, that's
not
what
what
the
all
chart
the study
says.
says, though.
Sorry,
Study says more than that, though.
One second,
No,
one second,
that's what the
guys.
chart says.
Sorry.
That's what the chart
Real
says.
quick.
Yeah, so Imam al-Shafi'i, okay, he's somebody who comes after Muhammad, peace be upon him. He speaks about the individuals of his time period,
Right.
as well as Aisha radiallahu anha, by the way, but this is afterwards. So Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, he speaks about the people that come after in his time period, okay, and he says that he has observed with his own eyes where an individual who was 9 years old, okay, she gave birth to one child, and then her child
Where's
gave
it say
birth.
that?
Yeah, this
What
is in
source?
this is in his books.
What's the
This is
source?
book.
It's a Risala.
So it's an Islamic
Risala.
source.
He's a historian.
He's observing
because
it.
he's someone that's contemporary to that time and he's making an observation.
So according to you, so again, I said this was an external critique. I'm
my
saying
goodness.
that if that was
This
that
doesn't
can't
mean we're talking
happen.
historical-
Yeah, we're talking about
According-
historical
You've cited
dates.
now two sources.
Walaikum salam. More than 4 women in my family have their menstrual cycle at age 9, and I don't mean distant cousins. I mean in my household. Yeah, and again, like that doesn't. We at the same time we have a updated version of society. We know we have laws, which I think all these laws are obviously very good. That's what he should be arguing, is that these laws of raising the standard age has come from Christianity. Like that's what he should be arguing, right? He should be like, he shouldn't be dunking on Islam because it doesn't even matter, right? His idea, the first thing that he brought up was that society is better produced by Christianity, right? And I know I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm trying to help him out here. I'm trying to help him out because he set a standard of how this should go, and then he's like, look at the data, look at this, you know, look at the results, and then he's not even arguing like easy layups that Christianity is the one that started the implementation of age requirements, right? You know, he's now trying to argue about, you know, fringe biological process, you know, extreme examples. I mean, and the truth of the matter is, right, we like, of course we understand, like from our understanding as Muslims, as that Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, was a very exceptional woman, right? She was, you know, someone who was very involved. She was obviously someone who was very scholarly. She was obviously someone who was involved militarily, right? So, like, she would be exceptional, right? And maybe it's because she matured at an exceptional age, right? Like, you know, Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. But he's trying to argue like the biological minimum when he's talking about results, right? And the results are that Christianity is the one, from my opinion, from my understanding, maybe I'm wrong, is that set these minimum ages. That's what he should be arguing.
That contradict each other. The paper, Evolution, Development, and the Timing of Puberty, shows that could not have happened.
No, it
But then
doesn't-
you
it
said,
doesn't- wait, what
but
does it-
according to our
could-
Islamic
wait,
sources,
why does it say it could not
hold up.
happen?
According to the Islamic
You
sources,
say that.
it did
It says literally
happen.
they can have earlier
Therefore,
miracles.
you just said Islam contradicts reality. Thank you.
So real quick, you're making 3 blunders. First of all, the study never says it couldn't have happened because the study, number one, it doesn't account for the specific sample within Middle Eastern countries. That's number one, and it doesn't account for anomalies. That's number 2. Number 3, Imam al-Shafi'i in Risala, he does mention this, and he's someone that's contemporary to
So
that
let's
time.
go on that. Anomalies. We're talking about which is better. Anomalies.
so real
So
quick,
if an anomaly happens, it's okay to have sex with them?
Can you let me finish? Again,
it's okay to have sex with
let
them?
me finish. No, you shouldn't do that. I already clarified.
Whoa, okay, good.
So,
good,
so,
good.
so
Keep going.
let me finish. So again, we know in the case, according to the study, in the case that someone is pubescent at that time, it wouldn't entail harm. That's by your concession because you said
No, I didn't.
You see that because you said that it's not possible for Aisha to have been pubescent. If it was the case, then according to you and the conclusion they made from the study, then it would follow indeed, right?
You're taking what I said out of context.
No.
No, let me clarify.
Let me know.
I did not say harm. I said there was no. I was talking about pre-pubescent.
Right.
Aisha was pre-pubescent.
I disagree-
according
we
to the
disagree with
paper.
that.
Yeah, we
so at that
disagree.
point,
By
but
her
in
own
terms
words,
of
she
harm,
says that she wasn't.
when I was talking about harm, I mentioned physical and mental harm as well.
Beautiful.
So it doesn't matter. You're having teen, a
Doesn't matter.
preteen, anything, it's going to be harmful to them. We should reject this. Sex with anyone under 18 should be outlawed.
Is that according to
Islam says
Christianity?
it's
Okay, hey buddy. All right, I better see him at Congress, man. I better see him knocking on doors, man. I better see him knocking on doors. That's all I'm saying. I better see him start knocking on some doors here.
It's okay.
Is that
Can we
according
make
to
like a final point and move to like
Hold on, hold
a
on.
second
Yeah.
I
point?
just want to know, is that according to Christianity or is that according to
Again, Ezekiel 16,
modern,
yes.
modern secular
According to
society?
Ezekiel 16.
Ezekiel 16
What
doesn't give you a
translation?
number. It
'Cause,
doesn't say
yeah,
18.
it
just
says
gives you-
entered puberty in the
wait,
NIV.
No, no.
Yeah, and it gives you,
Let me
it
read
gives
it.
you, hold on, it
I
gives
gotta
you
read it
certain
then.
indications of
Hold on,
pubescence,
let me
which
read
we
it.
also don't disagree with, right?
Let me read it.
Pubic hair, the growing of breasts, etc. Those are also indications that we have as well. So that doesn't contradict Islam.
So when does puberty complete?
yeah, again, it completes when the
Can we-
individual goes through
let's-
all of
let's
these
When
allow-
does
things.
puberty
Yeah,
complete?
Let's shift to get a word in as well.
So when puberty completes between the ages of 15 or 17.
Is
So
that
it
the
says
case
here in
everywhere?
Ezekiel 16 when he's talking about the girl, he says, "Okay, I made you flourish like a plant of the field."
Wait, so 15
and
is
you
okay?
grew up. Hold
Okay.
on, you got, man, calm down. It's
Go
all good.
ahead.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm just reading. And you grew up and became tall and arrived at full adornment. Your breasts were formed, and your hair
Yeah, I know. I mean, he's just. Yeah, I totally agree.
had grown, yet you were naked and bare. When I passed by you again, I saw you, and behold, you were at the age of lovemaking. So when the breasts are formed, when she is fully formed, then is the age for lovemaking. So according to this principle in Christianity that we get from the Bible, no, you have to wait till she is finished. That's the age of lovemaking. Meanwhile, in Islam, you're saying no, it can happen before that. That's bad. That's harmful. The studies all show this. Do you deny that the studies don't show child marriage is harmful?
No, I agree with that. We already got
You
this.
agree that? Okay,
and
great,
Under
great.
Islam,
Holy
real quick.
strawman.
And under Islam, anything that's harmful is going to be impermissible. Now, let's get that out of the way.
Hey, quick break from the show. I want to give a big shout out to Cascade Church and
With a prepubescent relative, that there is no such thing as having intimacy with a prepubescent.
You have not.
We have.
No,
we have. But actually,
did
that's not.
Muhammad,
That's
did
not.
Muhammad
That's not.
consummate the marriage at 9?
That's not.
Did he consummate the marriage at 9?
Does 9 automatically necessitate a child?
Yes. Did he
No,
consummate
it
the marriage at
doesn't.
9?
You still haven't proven that.
Yeah,
you
there
haven't
is
proven
no
that. You
possi-
literally just said 15 to 17. Okay, fine. Is that the case globally? Is that
Yes.
no, it's not.
Yes,
I
it's
can literally
not. And I
bring you
can
No, it's not. He's just yapping.
Explain to you why. I can explain to you why. I can explain why. Very simple.
I wasn't done.
Like in a lot of like Western European countries, it's 14. I think Germany is like 14 for the age of consent.
I can explain to you really why.
I'm
It's
not done.
quite simple. Hip development. Hip development.
Oh my God. Yeah, PubMed says that when it comes to puberty and when it comes to menarche, there's a paper. I could cite it for you if you want. I can
about
bring it for you
menarche
right
at
now.
this point.
Okay. It literally says that pubescence can be achieved at different points, and it's achieved via different social standards. When it comes to geographic, when it comes to economic, these are all different
Does it say
factors
it's
that come into
completed?
place. It literally talks about
Being
the
completed.
individuals going through puberty.
Being completed.
Yeah, so it goes from the age of 11 all the way up until
Being
the age of
completed.
17 to 18. It's
Being
completely different.
anything
what
show
you're
hip
saying.
development is complete at age 11.
Yeah, so it's talking
No,
about puberty.
there are none. It is biologically impossible for the hips of a girl to not be complete
Yeah, we
until the
can
age of
allow,
15 to
you
17.
can make that up, and then we want to move on to the other facts as well, because if you just hone on one thing, then we're not going to be
But
able
I just want to know, did Muhammad consummate the marriage with a 9-year-old?
No.
He did not.
Look, what I'm saying.
She
What I'm
wasn't
saying here.
9,
What
yes or no?
I'm
You don't say no to that.
Just
you
say
say-
yes or no and expound.
What I'm saying here is that she was not a child at the time of marriage. She's not a child at the time of consummation. In fact, even in the traditional account, there's a waiting period. Now, this comes to the other angle I was trying to get to, is why do marriages take place in the first place? Marriages take place not just for intimacy. They take place, especially for a leader, they take place to establish alliances. And this, in a way, goes back to the issue of polygamy.
Who was Aisha's father?
Abu Bakr.
Oh, he did establish an alliance with him?
You don't understand how the Eastern culture is. Eastern culture is when you want to bring people together for various political or social reasons, you do so through the vehicle of marriage.
That doesn't change anything I'm saying, though.
No,
a
well,
9-year-old
no,
is
no,
always
hold
a
on, hold on.
child.
Hold on.
Always a child. What Muhammad did was evil. He's not a good moral example. He should be thrown out because he's actually causing all sorts of
What
harm.
about Yahweh?
We see this happening in Iraq. We see this
Yahweh,
happening in
Moses.
Sudan, in Yemen, where they think it's okay to start sleeping with
Yeah, it's funny how he mentioned like 3 countries, right? Iraq, Sudan, and Yemen, right? 3 countries that have been bombed to smithereens, who have been in war-torn situations. You know, hundreds of thousands of children have died in Iraq due to economic sanctions and military conflict, right? You know, and because of a lot of this stuff, extremely low education, right? Low resources, and so it's just, you know, he's going at, these are not even like, you know, countries to be like used as a standard, because they've been in such war for decades, for literal decades, 30 plus years, 30 plus years of war, and extreme economic hardship because of sanctions put on. And who are the countries that have bombed these countries, right? It's the United States. The United States have put these countries into really extreme conditions, right? That haven't allowed them to even get proper resources or education, right? You know, of course, there's going to be, horrific atrocities that are happening there. But we can also look at, countries like the Congo, which is a Christian country, I believe. Ethiopia also allows child marriages, right? I think like 40% of their population, and again, very, very, very rich Ethiopian country. Not rich in like money, but like rich in just Christianity as a whole. I think like 40% of their population, stems from child marriages. And so again, it's horrible that we have to argue this, but it's like, it's stone from a glass house, right?
Unfortunately, you're just appealing to emotions. That's it. That's all you're doing. You're appealing.
I can cite studies. You want some studies?
You're appealing to emotions.
So you think it's okay to? I just want to be clear.
No, nobody said that on the panel.
No one said that.
I don't know. Wait, one second, real quick. I don't know why you keep going back to that same question we already answered like a few times.
You didn't answer.
No, we already
He
said
quite
no.
literally said no.
Nobody today should be.
I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about Muhammad.
Let me finish.
I'm talking about Muhammad. Did Muhammad do something immoral?
No, we don't believe that.
Okay, so sleeping, having is not immoral.
Hey, brother,
presence
this
of the fallacy.
is exactly what you're doing. You're saying that, hey, it was, it's immoral today, therefore it must have been immoral back then. But you would even agree, Mr. IP, that there's things that we can derive through reason, and over time we can trial and test. For example, according to you in the 22, 28 to 29, Yahweh says that if somebody grapes a child, they can marry that child, right?
No, it doesn't. No, it does not. That is a lie. That is a lie. That is not what the word. Not what tapas means.
Now,
Yeah, it is what
now,
paidan means.
now
That's what paidan means.
you would say that, hey, that at that specific time point would be moral. But
No.
because, let me land.
No.
But because of how society operates today, because of what we know as Islam as urf, or aka accustoming to the natural custom of society, therefore will be deemed impermissible through reason, natural theology.
So okay, good. So we use our reason.
Beautiful.
So we need to develop on what the law
Thank you.
taught. No,
So, wait, do you think that's not Islam?
He just kept talking. Now he wants to keep going.
Go
You
ahead.
let me respond. You see how that works? Kind of weird, isn't it? So anyway, let's go.
I just love how he always appeals to the middle guy.
Go back to this. So here's the problem. You can't do that. Muhammad is getting revelations from supposedly an omniscient God.
Was
And
Yahweh
he's saying,
giving revelation?
hold up. And he's saying, you are the pattern of conduct for humanity. Oh, by the way, you can have there, according to him, because he got some dream from Allah.
Same as Yahweh in Deuteronomy.
So
Right.
at that point, now you can't say that. Now Allah is wrong. You need to use reason and science
Yahweh
to
is
show
wrong
that he
too,
is wrong.
guys.
This is a problem for you.
Beautiful. So again, IP for some odd reason believes that reason and the revelation given in the Quran are going to be incompatible. No, that's not true.
It is?
So one second, as Sunni Muslims, we believe that there's going to be things that are inherently immoral, such as injustice, for example, prior to revelation. For example, in Islam, just give me a second. In Islam, we believe that drinking alcohol is going to be impermissible. That is going to lead to a greater harm, which Christian societies allow, right? However, there is going to be circumstances, for example, where you need to survive, where there's nothing accessible to you, where you do need to drink alcohol. So guess what? Islam, in that specific condition, allows reason to say that, hey, this thing is going to be the only viable way to live, therefore it's going to be permissible. So yes, Islam is compatible with natural law. It is compatible with reconciling specific commands over time.
Great. So reason, let's go on that.
No, you said the thing, Muhammad is said to receive revelation. Well, according to Yahweh, when it's spoken in Deuteronomy, he's also given revelation. That's not a defeat to the argument. You have to show why is it the case that Deuteronomy gave the law to marry children, yet we don't do it today. Right?
So let me get back to this. My main
And again, if they want to make the argument that Yahweh is Jesus, right? Why did Jesus allow child marriages in the book of Deuteronomy, right? Right. Let's find let's find it. Verse in Deuteronomy about when a person I don't even want to look at this up. That's just so sus.
point. Can you marry a 9-year-old? Is that allowed in Islam?
No, today no.
Today, no. So it was.
But
It
according to
was.
Deuteronomy,
Right.
So it was. So in that
in
time,
Deuteronomy, you could have married children, and now you can't.
Well, let me talk.
But you don't want to address the Deuteronomy
I'm showing you the double standard.
I'm going to get to
Get to the
Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy
I'm
one.
going to
Right.
get to Deuteronomy.
he's gonna get to Deuteronomy.
So
He's gonna get to
you're talking about Deuteronomy 28, right?
22,
22, 28.
Yep.
Yeah.
22:28. Okay, perfect. I didn't want to look it up. All right. I was like, I do not want to put that into ChatGPT. I was like, yo, that's just like asking for like an agent to come to my house. All right. Deuteronomy 22:28. Okay. Here we go. So yeah. This is the NIV. So this is like some like new version. Let's go to like I guess King James maybe. Here we go. So this one doesn't say age. Let's see. What would be like a New Catholic? Here we go. So this is Deuteronomy 22, 28 to 29. If a man encounters a young woman who is a virgin, but she's not betrothed, and he overcomes her and has sex with her. Can you guys see this? Okay. If a man encounters a young woman who is a virgin, but she's not betrothed, and he overcomes her and has sex with her, and they are discovered, he must pay the young woman's father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the young woman, for he has violated her, and he can never divorce her for as long as he lives. Right? So, if we want to use, like, the argument that, Allah, like, the argument that IP is saying is that Allah is giving Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, direct revelation, and so Allah revealed the fact that he can have, he can marry Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. But using that same form of thinking, right, Yahweh, who's also by the Trinity standards Jesus, right, Jesus gave revelation to Moses that this would be allowed, right, that this would be allowed. At some point in Christian theology, Jesus gave revelation to Moses that this could happen. Astaghfirullah.
Right. So, going back to my point about child.
Yeah, but also, okay. Let's see. So this is in the 11th century. This is the 11th century church, right? The 11th century church. The church set down many rules, right? Who one could marry, right? So this is what the church said. So the church had a betrothal. Let me see. Betrothals could be made when the bride was as young as 12 years old and the groom would be 14, with the wedding taking place a few years later. So using your form of logic, right? This would be what a young woman would be. But this, again, was the minimum standard that was set 500 years after the Quran, okay? And so even if we allow, I can see the fact that, sure, young woman is in the Christian standard when this, during the time of Moses, happened to be 12 years old, right? Just happened to be 12 years old. If we just allow that to be true, whatever. Jesus still gave revelation to Moses according to the Trinity for this to be true. Using that line of thinking, Paul. Jesus gave, according to Trinity, Trinitarian framework, Trinitarian doctrine, Jesus gave revelation to Moses to allow this to happen.
Marriage, though. Okay, you just basically became a moral relativist. Okay, is now the point. Now, let me finish.
Of course, we have someone attacking the prophet because that's all they have. We're gonna have to put this user on a timeout.
IP, you think that's moral relativism?
Habibi, calm down, matey. It's gonna be okay. So, because now it's okay to have a girl in the time of Muhammad, and it caused all the harm then. But now, because we've used reason and science, we can now know that the guidance that Allah was giving
Muhammad.
That's not moral relativism. And there he goes again. There it goes again.
Did he just say he was going to get to Deuteronomy?
Now we can use we can now use reason and guidance to know that Allah was wrong. Thank you. Islam, the guidance it gave that through Muhammad was wrong. Let's get to Deuteronomy 22 now.
Yes.
The word is tafas.
Oh, what about in the Greek?
Hold up.
What's in the Greek?
It's a Hebrew, man.
Oh,
So the
but
word
what
is
about the
tafas. So we don't want to go on the original language. So
wait.
we can't use the original. They said they want me to get to Deuteronomy 22. Now they don't want to stop.
Let him finish this Deuteronomy point, and then we'll let you respond.
So the word is tafas. That is the same word used in Genesis when the wife of Potiphar grabs Joseph's cloak and says, "Come to bed with me." That does not mean rape. When you said it meant rape, it lied. You're going off the NIV translation. That is wrong. It just means to sort of flirtatiously seize. And we see that in the parallel passage in Exodus.
He flirtatiously seizes. Hey, gotta give credit where credit is due. Gotta give credit where credit is due.
When it talks about when a man seduces a girl and they're found, then you'll pay those shekels to the father.
There's a big problem with that, though, is that the Latin Vulgate translates Deuteronomy 22, 28 to 29 the same way.
Yep. Hey, what's going on, Dan? What's going on? How you doing today? I'm doing well. Alhamdulillah. I mean, yo, 30 minutes on this conversation, bro. 30 minutes? Come on. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
It translates 25 to 27, which you already agree is about
It's
rape.
Latin.
So there's no point of taking 28 to 29 to not be about rape when your earliest Christians translate and understand it to be about rape.
They were wrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, that's the difference.
Jay, that's, yo, come on. They were wrong. People who, they were wrong. Classic. So they were wrong about this verse, but then they were somehow right about the Trinity. Astaghfirullah.
That's the difference.
convenient.
I can use reason.
How
Right?
convenient.
Notice the difference.
Everyone's
here.
all
Notice
wrong.
the difference.
All
Notice
wrong.
the difference. I use actually the Bible to show you what the word means. They go, but these later Latin translators didn't agree with you. I don't care. I'm using the
So
Hebrew.
everybody was right, and you're the only one that's
No,
you're the only one that's
the
right.
Hey, if the shoe
disciples
fits, my
quote the
brother,
LXX.
the shoe fits. I'll take
The
it.
issue,
I guess he didn't have the Holy Spirit.
You hinged on one of the wrong issue. Okay, the issue isn't regarding tefas and whether they were raped or not raped. The issue is the word paida in the LXX. You agree the LXX
Right.
is used by the disciples, correct? It's a valid source that the Bible
They don't use that
uses.
one. They don't say that. No.
Oh, they don't. Just conveniently, they don't use that
No.
one. But is
Special LXX.
it a source that they use?
They use the Septuagint as a source for like prophecy, typology, that kind of stuff.
Right, and they get them wrong there.
But
too.
Matthew
No
also uses
problem.
Hebrew.
They get
Doesn't
wrong
change
there, too.
anything.
They
This
get
is
wrong
so
there, too.
irrelevant to the
So
overall point.
In the LXX, does it use the word paida?
I don't have to look it up. That's irrelevant to the point.
Look it up.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
No. I want to get back to the point. This is
Look it
so
up.
irrelevant. I already addressed this.
How is it
Okay,
irrelevant?
wait,
Do
wait,
you
how is that
agree?
relevant?
Do you agree that it is wrong to have
In
Christian society?
Dude, oh my god. Okay. Dude, come on. This is so bad. Yeah, that reaction is exactly, that's exactly the case.
Keep right from the top.
Hold on.
You have said that question a bunch of
Okay,
times.
Exactly.
Okay, hey, even Brian's like, okay, can we move on? Like, come on, just for the sake of argument, right? Whatever. Obviously, there's never going to be an agreement on this. You can give as much data as possible. If he was just smart, again, playing devil's advocate on this, if he was just smart, he would say because of Christianity, there's age limits, right? Like that would be a better argument than trying to argue about if something was moral 1400 years ago, right? He was talking about data. He was talking about better for society. He was talking about the results of society. Again, he's arguing about something from 1400 years ago. Why wouldn't you just say, hey, this is what Christianity has done. It's evolved. It's transpired. It's set age limits, right? Now, of course, we would then look at the actual data, and then that's just not true. So he would still be wrong, but he's just not arguing properly, in my opinion here.
And he answered it like 50 times.
Let me land my main point then. I will land my main point here. Okay.
Back to square one.
So now, like,
The problem
actually
is-
progress
the problem
this.
is that we're talking about which society is going to produce better. Sorry, which religion is going
Okay,
to produce.
but we want to get across multiple points.
There we go.
Sorry,
Yeah.
no, just
I'm trying to wrap up so we can. Don't
Go ahead,
worry,
bro.
okay? The point we're trying to get is which is actually producing. I'm over here saying that Christian societies has outlawed this stuff. It's wrong. It's evil.
Yep. Christian societies have totally outlawed this stuff.
You guys are saying, no, it can happen in some circumstances, and therefore it's okay. That's the point I'm trying to drive home here. You guys keep saying it's okay to have if the circumstances allow, but that's what Islam teaches. And then you're just saying, well, reason and science says that we can't. Great, reason and science contradict Islam, and we use that instead of Islam. That's my point. So we get back to the main point.
All right, we'll let you guys close out on this topic.
All right, beautiful. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of problems. You said that it's been totally banned, but we see historically speaking, like it's found in A Lily Among the Thorns, that historically speaking, Christians would use verses like Numbers 31 and Deuteronomy 22 to justify raping young girls.
Man, don't let this guy speak, man. Just don't let him speak.
And finding that to be holy. Also, you're trying to like completely just ignore the Septuagint, but your Christian saints like Augustine and stuff make arguments that if the Torah is preserved, then it's preserved in all recessions, including the Septuagint. So we have to look at the texts and compare the Hebrew and the Septuagint and understand the meanings from both of them. You can't just only look at the Hebrew, you have to look at the Hebrew and the Septuagint. And in the Septuagint, it uses the word force and child. So the child is being forced to be married.
No, it's not true.
Yeah, so just one
No,
more
it's not true. All right, hey, fair enough.
thing to add to what you were saying specifically. So when we're looking at modern day societies as well, you're saying that because these things don't occur in Christian societies, that therefore means, and that they do occur in Islamic societies, that therefore means that Islam is worse for,
Walaikum salam. Hey, God is one official. Would you be down to be a mod? I need more mods. My mods have not been modding. My mods have not been doing their job for like a week or so now. I need more mods. If anyone wants to be a mod, please let me know.
For society in general than Christianity. Is that basically
I'm saying yes,
summarized?
because
That's what you're saying, right?
Well,
I'm not done. I just want to make sure that's what you
one
said.
sentence, one sentence.
go ahead.
Because you guys even acknowledge Islam is allowing with girls under 18,
We said
that is going to
no,
produce
like
worse
10
results.
times.
Don't
But
say it,
anyway,
don't say
yeah,
it.
anyway.
Talking about some, hypothetical situation.
Well, let me make the sentence.
Well, yeah, it was
Let me
my
make the
conclusion.
sentence.
Yeah.
Calm
It's been like
down.
10
Okay.
sentences.
That is going to produce worse societies by your own admission. Yes, it will, because the studies show it does.
Cool. So the problem is, do you know what Mill's method of difference is?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Questions.
I'm sorry.
What happens is you guys ask him a
okay.
question. and then
It's kind of rhetorical.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
I can explain it, no problem. Mill's method of difference just simply tells us that if it's the case that we're proposing that some sort of thing has a commonality between two particular events. So in this case, let's talk, for example, a Christian society that has many gangs and a Christian society that doesn't have any gangs. Okay. The individual who's coming to a conclusion saying that, oh, because this society is Christian, it therefore has many gangs, is going to be wrong because there is not only it does not occur only in one society. There is there has to be some other sufficient cause such that it would say that this is the reason why it's occurring in this society
Right.
and in that one. Okay, good. So is it the case that it's occurring in every single Muslim society that there's child marriage?
I don't remember the statistics off the top of my head. But that doesn't change the point.
Wait, does it
let me
occur
finish
in
now.
every
Hold up,
single
hold up.
Muslim society?
Just
Hold up, let
finish
me
your point, and then we're
Let me
going to
Yeah,
move
I
into.
finished.
You
My
guys
question is-
acknowledged already that that Islam is allowing and teaching this.
That's
So
my
didn't-
question.
didn't.
That's my question.
We are.
Did he have- Did he have sex?
Not a good mod. No, dude, Steve is banned. I'm not defending I'm not defending anything. If anything, you have to defend this. Right? He's saying that all Christian countries have outlawed this, child marriages, and that's just not true. Right? He's saying that Christianity is morally superior, right? Because it's outlawed child marriages, which is just not true, right? This is supposedly a Christian country, right? Like, this is supposedly a Christian country, and it happens in 2/3 of the states.
We are.
Yeah, but I mean, I could tell by what it says, Jenna. I would just be careful, right? We shouldn't make jokes about about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
What kind of dichotomy is this? Didn't Yahweh commend child marriage in Deuteronomy 22? Like, what is this?
No, I didn't. No.
We've already.
That's ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
Actually, let me share something. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
perfect.
Let me interrupt.
You're the boss.
Okay. So there is a gentleman by the name of Hans Kuhn, Catholic theologian, not necessarily a friend of Islam. Okay, not necessarily a friend of Islam. He has some criticism of Islam, but the issue is about about society, about what religion is good for society. So this is what he has to say. Again,
He's a state theologian, right?
he's a Catholic theologian.
Theologian. Okay, just want to make sure we know his credentials.
Yes. You want to go Google his name?
No, I'm going to talk to some sociologists later. But
All right, go ahead. So is Islam a religion of the law? Originally, it was not a religion of the law, but the religion of an ethic. The Quran is concerned with ethical imperatives for human society, not all of which were new. However, on the new basis of faith, these norms work in favor of more justice, fairness, restraint, moderation, mediation, compassion, and forgiveness.
What's his evidence?
And here's a lot of evidence here. I just gave you one
What's his
quote.
evidence?
I mean,
Beautiful.
you-
We
you-
No, I want to ask him, what's your evidence? What's your
I mean,
evidence that it causes more
it's
justice?
a very long quotation.
What's your evidence? I'm holding his book right here. So, Catholic theologian. Hold on, I need to listen to this.
All right, go ahead. So is Islam a religion of the law? Originally, it was not a religion of the law, but the religion of an ethic. The Quran is concerned with ethical imperatives for human society, not all of which were new. However, on the new basis of faith, these norms work in favor of more justice, fairness, restraint, moderation, mediation, compassion, and forgiveness.
What's his evidence?
And he has a lot of evidence here. I just gave you one
What's his
quote.
evidence?
I mean,
Beautiful.
you,
We-
you,
we-
you,
we
No,
can do
I
it.
want to ask him, what's your evidence? What's your
I mean,
evidence that it causes more
it's a very long quotation.
Because
here.
I can cite actual like researchers, like
Oh,
sociologists.
so you think,
Yeah,
we think this is a
goodness.
crackhead or something?
My goodness. Now, he's a theologian according to your admission. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to cite an actual book. It's called The Price of Freedom Denied, written by actual researchers in the field. They say no. Islamic societies cause more persecution.
No.
They cause more discrimination than Christian Western societies. So actually, I have actual, they put actual research. They run an actual sociological model behind it. So actually, no. I can just cite them and say, no, that your theologian is wrong. The sociologists are correct.
Look, Islam historically gave freedom of religion.
What? Wait a minute.
were
Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm going to scoot down here for a minute. Hold up.
Why were the
Hold
Jews
up.
flourishing?
Hold up.
Why were the Jews flourishing in Spain
Right.
and persecuting
Okay.
the rest of
Yes,
Christian
sir.
Europe?
I'm a Christian. I'm a
Why-
Christian.
no, okay,
if
you're
I
a
lived under
Christian.
Sharia law, could I proselytize Muslims?
I mean, you can try, but it doesn't mean you're gonna go anywhere with
I
it.
can proselytize Muslims under Sharia law.
Yeah,
I
can
can go
we-
out and say, yes,
can we add to
please
this?
convert to Christianity.
Right. So we can add to this real quick. So when it comes to rulings and how
Wait, we're not even talking about society anymore. Like this is yeah, okay. First of all, it's been down the drain for the first 30 minutes, but it's in the gutter now.
they apply throughout history, we'd obviously have to use like a bigger sample size in terms of when you look at, for example, how Umar ibn Khattab teaches the Jews.
Just answer the question, can I proselytize?
Real quick.
Biblically speaking, you can't.
Exactly, you cannot. So no, I do not have freedom of
Biblically
religion.
speaking.
You don't have freedom of religion under.
Yeah, biblically speaking, you can.
For example, how Umar ibn Khattab teaches the Jews.
Just answer the question, can I proselytize?
Real quick.
Biblically speaking, you can't.
Exactly, you cannot. So no, I do not have freedom of
Biblically
religion.
speaking.
You don't have freedom of religion under
think you heard-
Islam.
I don't think-
Exactly.
I don't think you heard-
According to Deuteronomy
I don't think
13,
you
you
heard what he
can't.
said.
Yeah.
So, we're
You
talking
would
about
have your
Islam.
whole city
Talk-
committed genocide.
No,
No,
I was trying to answer the question.
That's true. That's true. I forgot about that one. Yeah, in Deuteronomy 13, it specifically says. Let's even look at it. Must fear no observe fast. You must purge evil from your midst. Yeah. So even if your brother, the son of your mother, or your son or your daughter, or your wife, or your closest friend secretly tempts you, saying, "Let us go and serve other gods, whom neither you or your forefathers have known, the gods of the living people around us, whether they be near or far, whether they are upon the whole face of earth, you are not to agree to do this with them, or even listen to them. You must show them no pity. You should not spare or conceal him. You must put him to death." Right? So even according to their Bible, if someone was to preach about another religion, you must put them to death.
Under
Bye-bye to
Sharia,
your city.
under Sharia,
Under Sharia,
can
you
I
can't, and
proselytize?
under Christianity, you can't.
Okay,
Under
so
both.
there we go.
Under both.
So under Sharia, no, we do
Notice
not have
he
freedom of
doesn't
religion,
want
as
to
I just
justify.
said. I cannot proselytize.
All right, we're gonna take a quick two-minute break, and then we'll continue with this. All right, let's get back in it.
Why were the Jews?
Do you disagree with him?
Why were the Jews in Spain for 800 years during Muslim rule? And why, when the Muslims were kicked out, why did the Jews go to Muslim areas? Why did they go to Morocco? Why did they go to Iran and Turkey and the rest of North Africa? Why did they go?
Because they got kicked out. That doesn't change the
Why
point.
did they get kicked out? They got kicked out. Why did they kicked out? They got kicked out. They were previously tolerated and flourished in Muslim Spain.
No,
Yes.
that's a myth. That's a myth.
That's not a myth.
So
That's
Maimonides
not
traveled
a myth.
with
That's
them
not a
to
myth.
You've been
That's not a
talking.
myth. That's
You've been
not- I haven't been
talking.
talking. No,
You've been talking.
By the way,
The
don't
Maimonides
just
said no.
Christian
The
people.
Ishmaelites have been the worst people to us, and they forced them to convert under the Almohad Empire. So no,
You're talking
there was-
about Ottoman
hold
Empire.
on.
I'm not talking about Ottoman Empire. It was
You were just talking about
Same guy in
Spain.
Muslim
Spain is not part of the Ottoman Empire.
Almohads-
Spain was not part of the Ottoman Empire.
No, I said Almohad.
Are you saying it right?
Almohad. You don't know who the Almohads are?
Mohadun?
The Almohad. My goodness.
It's not my fault. You're
Do you
saying
know
what's wrong.
do you know who the Almoravids are? So in Spain, so let's do some history here because I don't think you know it. Okay,
Go ahead.
so the Almoravids come in after the collapse of the caliphate in there under the House of Cordoba. They take over.
You're talking about Wahadun.
In Spain, in Al-Andalus, okay? Then after that comes in the Almohads, and they rule in Spain. Maimonides is living under them. Maimonides said the Ishmaelites have been the worst to us of all people. They oppressed, they forced convert, they had all sorts of sex slavery going on. It was awful. So this idea that you don't even know the history. You don't even know who the Almohads are. So how do you know this was such a good time?
I'll give you one even earlier, okay, during the time period of Umar radiallahu anh. So the second caliph of Muhammad, peace be upon him. So it says here, this is Moshe Gill's book, okay, so he's a Jew. He says, similarly, his contemporary Salman bin Yerubim, in his Arabic commentary, he wrote, as we know, the temple remained in the hands of the Romans for more than 500 years, and they did not succeed in entering Jerusalem, speaking about the Jews. And anyone who did this was recognized as a Jew, was put to death. But when the Romans left it by the mercy of the God of Israel and the kingdom of Ishmael was victorious, Israel was permitted to come and to live. So this is under the Islamic rule of Omar radiallahu anh. He's the one who allows for them. I could quote you another
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, if you just, like, this, you know, it's, like, there's going to be, like, damning evidence on both sides for anything, right? You know, so, I mean, it's hard to argue something like this because, again, you can find specific arguments for anything.
reference where he talks about how
Again, it should be going back, what does modern society, you know, what would be better for modern society, right? I think that's what it was, like, that was the beginning of this, and now they're trying to argue, like, different, like, very specific examples. So, yeah.
he's the one who invited 70 families from the Jews.
I mean, you know, if you want to say, like, France was a Christian country, right? I mean, they were literally beheading people. You know, they were literally beheading people for the longest time, right? You know, British Empire literally usurped resources, over $1 trillion from India and made them, like, you know, indentured slaves for workers. During World War II, right? The British Empire literally literally usurped probably over $1 trillion worth of resources from India, right? And made them, you know, force them to go to war, you know, force them to be indentured servants / slaves. And, you know, that's a Christian country. So, I mean, that's the thing. It's just, you know, you could find any type of example, you know, anti-Muslim government, anti-Christian government, whatever. It should, it seemed like this is totally going off the haywire when this is supposed to be like what's better for modern society.
to come back into Jerusalem to save them from the Christians.
The Catholic Christians?
The Catholic Christians.
Oh, the Roman
All right,
Christians?
so
Okay.
let's now address it. Now, so where are the Jews now living today?
Yeah, many different
Yeah,
places of the world.
they're
I mean, yeah. Why do you exactly, Zach? Like Protestants, like Protestants left Christians who ultimately, you know, started the Protestant you know, sect of Christianity. They left the British Empire because of the persecution and the forceful indoctrination of Catholicism. Like, so yeah, absolutely, yeah. He just, disbeliever that's blinded by the truth. Yeah, for sure.
Numbers have depleted throughout the Middle East because of horrible oppression that
Wait,
is
are you
happening
gonna address
now.
the point of Umar al-Khattab
I'm going to address it, yeah. 'Cause
So why
we're
do you allow them to live?
Man, my
Go ahead.
goodness, man.
Okay, go ahead.
It's four people versus one. They won't even let me talk. It's insane.
Yeah, I was actually talking about the topic that we're bringing
We're
up,
talking
though.
about what is better. And
Yeah, they brought up the Almohads. I know nothing about it, so that's why I have no commentary about that.
as both of these religions have developed societies, Clearly, the Christian West has allowed a lot more religious freedom as the sociological.
The Christian West, the Protestants who were getting persecuted, right? that left the British Empire.
Research shows, again, the book, The Price of Freedom Denied, shows that in the Middle East, Jews, Christian, heterodox groups, like the Alawites, for example, or the Baha'i, they are being oppressed on high levels versus what's happening in the West. So yeah, as these religions develop societies, Christianity...
I mean, the Baha'i is just... It's funny. My friend... I actually have a friend. He was Baha'i who reverted to Islam, right? So he became Baha'i. I think he was Christian, became Baha'i, and then he became a Muslim. And he their pilgrimage is to like the Wailing Wall in Israel, which is crazy. Like Baha'i is probably just like some like I'm saying this with like literally zero like context or understanding about what Baha'i really even is, right? But it's honestly just from what it seems like, just probably some like Jewish-made religion.
led to far less oppression than what we see in Islam. This is backed by research.
I mean, again, that's just not the case. He's saying that Christianity has outlawed all child marriages, but then why does the United States have 2/3 of its states allow child marriage? Like, I mean, look at this. 2/3 of the United States, it's legal. I mean, we already know that this is a bot, so yeah, we'll just get him out of here. See you, buddy.
Therefore, Christianity is better for society. By the way, Jonathan Fox found similar results.
Okay, so historically speaking, right, because that's what we were talking about
Right.
earlier, but now you're bringing back Western Christianity, which I don't even agree there is such a thing. It's going to be, if there is, it's going to be in like places like Brazil or South America or anything. Not here in the U.S. though. So when it comes to Christianity historically, are you trying to make the claim that there was not, persecution of individuals who
No.
tried to proselyte? Really?
I'm not saying there was no persecution on either
okay.
side.
I thought you were saying,
There
okay.
was.
So there
It's about
was.
which is
So
better.
wait.
It's about which is better.
Hold on. So Christianity does allow for that, correct?
No.
No? Deuteronomy 13 doesn't allow for that?
No,
It
that's
doesn't
not.
tell you to stone
Are you
people who
kidding
call
me?
you to another god that's
Is
not the God of
Deuteronomy
Israel?
the new covenant?
Is that the same
Is
God?
Deuteronomy
Is it
the new
same
covenant?
God?
If it's the same God, Jesus, like, yeah, if we're going by the Trinitarian framework, right, that means Yahweh is the God of the Old Testament. Jesus is Yahweh, therefore Jesus is the God of the Old Testament. And it literally says, if you are having someone preach to you about different gods, you must put him to death, right? You must put him to death, stone him to death, stone him to death. It's Deuteronomy, the New Covenant. I mean, if they believe that Jesus was the God of the Old Testament, then yeah, like Jesus revealed this to Moses, astaghfirullah.
What is
God.
the new covenant?
Is it the same God?
It's the
It is
same
the same
God.
God. And he prescribed that in the past, correct?
So okay,
it was something
here,
more?
am I going to be able to respond here?
Wait, did he
Am I
prescribe
going to
or not?
respond?
You can respond. He's asking
I
questions.
just want you to engage in
now,
it.
now we need to talk about this because you're bringing this up. So
Sure.
Deuteronomy is didactic and exhortational in the laws it's laying down. This is according to
Yeah, but Jesus followed it. But even so, if they believe that Jesus is God of the Old Testament, that means he commanded this, right? That means according to Trinitarians, Jesus, it doesn't matter if he followed it, like whether he followed it or not, it means that because they believe that he's God of the Old Testament, it means that he commanded this. It means that he commanded this to happen.
mainstream scholarship today. It's not laying down minimal sentences, it's expressing the moral importance. You can read, for example, Dilbert Hillers, you can read John Walton on this, you can read, for example,
What's the
Kenneth
evidence? Is
My
the Bible?
good-
And it's funny how, like the issue that comes with all of these, like, are these scholars your prophets or what? Are these scholars your prophets or what? Like are these scholars your prophet or what?
You can read, for example, Dilbert Hillers. You can read John Walton on this. You can read, for example,
What's the
Kenneth
evidence? Is it
My
the Bible?
goodness, man, my goodness. You can read Kenneth Bergman.
Right.
So that's the thing. This is irrelevant because the marching orders for Christianity are not Deuteronomy, which again is didactic.
Okay.
It's it's pointing forward to something greater and more important. The marching orders are the new covenant. So no, that is not a law prescribed to Christians. It has nothing to do with the topic. And now you're basically saying, yeah, we think that happens in Islam, this killing of apostates. Yeah, that's bad for society. Guess what? Christianity doesn't allow it. You just gave me another reason why Christianity is better.
Good. So why does Thomas Aquinas, who's a Christian, obviously I believe he's a Catholic, right? He's a saint. He quotes the book of Hebrews, which
Okay.
So the main topic of the argument is which one's better for society, and they're arguing about like really fringe examples, right? And I guess you do need to use examples to make your point. It's just it's like the unfortunate thing that when it comes to Christians versus Muslims, which it should never even be that. It should never be Islam or Christianity, considering like the main premise of both religions are pretty much the same. Obviously, there's one big glaring aspect that's totally different. But even looking at the Bible, there's some examples right here. Of course, like, the classic one, Deuteronomy 22, 28 through 29, right? Where it literally has legislation where if you force yourself onto a young woman, right, yada yada, you can marry her. So anyways, and that's like a prime argument that they try to use against Islam when it's literally verbatim in their text.
I think you take the position it was written by Paul's, but maybe not. Okay. So in Hebrews 10, it says, where is it? Sorry. 1 second. So Paul quotes an Old Testament law that doesn't necessitate that he upholds it or believes it. Okay, in Hebrews 10, he's talking essentially about the heretics and how they should be alive, but he says...
So what's the verse? I want to pull the verse up.
I believe it's Hebrews 10, verse 28 and 29.
Yeah, we have that one up here. Right here.
Hebrews 10, 28 and 29.
Yeah,
Okay.
so he's quoting the Old Testament and saying, or rather he's vaguely quoting it and saying that a heretic or somebody who's quote, going against God, that person should be unalived, but their judgment is going to come from God. Now, wait, hold on. Thomas Aquinas, a Catholic theologian, a saint of the church, right, what does he say? In Summa Theologica, he says, St. Thomas Aquinas, on whether heretics ought to be tolerated. This is question 11, article 3.
I just can't believe that. Like, also, like, when I see these debates, like, they do this in the same day. So they already had a debate earlier, the 3v3, and then now they're doing a 4v1 in the same day. They're probably debating for almost like 7 or 8 hours in a day. I couldn't imagine a bigger waste of time. Just sitting there in some studio for like, whatever, 4 hours, like, maybe even like 7 or 8 hours just debating. Because I think they did multiple debates, not just the 3v3. Because, I mean, as you can see, they're wearing the same exact clothes. So this is obviously in the same day. And so they did at least a 3v3 and this. And the 3v3 was how many hours long? Hold up. All right, we're at 47 minutes. 43 minutes. So the 3v3, and then, wait, did this happen the same day? So there was the 3v3 that was 2 hours long. Then there was a Christian versus Muslim, which was an hour and a half long. And then there was another one. So already 5 hours. 5 hours of debates. All right. Yeah, we're not going to have disrespect of our religion. We'll put you on a timeout. There we go. Please don't disrespect Islam like that. Walaikum salam. So they already have 5 hours of debates, and I'm pretty sure there's another debate that happens later. That's crazy.
Women, psychological.
43. Oh, they're going to go back into this. Okay.
Severed from the world by death. For it is a much graver matter to corrupt the faith which quickens the soul, than to forge money which supports temporal life. Wherefore, if forgers of money and other evildoers are forthwith condemned but to the death by the secular authority, etc., etc.
So can we read the verse now?
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
so
I already
anyone
told
who
you
has
what
set
the verse
aside
is.
the law of Moses dies without mercy on the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
How much worse punishment do you think will be deserved by the one who has trampled underfoot the Son of God and has profaned the blood of the covenant by which he was sanctified and has outraged the spirit of grace? So this is not prescribed. This is talking about basically what does someone deserve?
Did I not say that? I literally said that.
There we go.
But
Now,
then
is
I told
Thomas
you,
Aquinas the
quotes it. Sir, I said Aquinas quotes it. Okay, we're talking about Christianity historically. Okay, and historically, Christians used to allow for the unalivement of heretics. They used to allow for the unalivement of Jews, as I already gave you the references for. You're not engaging with that.
So do
You're
they now?
literally just saying, sir.
Wait,
yeah,
go
it depends on
ahead.
where
So
you're
I
talking about.
want to comment on that. So what?
Do they now? Wow, imagine like looking yourself in the mirror after it's the same. You could say the exact same thing with his argument about the earlier topic.
I
What are you
gotta
taking-
respond to what you had said. I would like to respond to what you said.
Listen, you can jump in, right? So what we're doing is that we're looking at a period sample size, right? For example, looking at like 1998 to like 2010, right? And we're taking that sample size and we're saying, hey, based upon that, Christianity yields the better results. But why can't we extend the sample size back? Why can't we do that?
Great,
So real quick,
absolutely.
real
I
quick.
wanna do that. Yeah, let's
If we do
absolutely
take that back, would you agree that we can find historical instances where the Jews are oppressed by the Christians?
Yes, I
Beautiful.
never denied that.
Beautiful.
This is how you
That's
answer
what
questions. You
engages
see
it.
what
That's
I'm
the
doing? I
problem.
say yes, and then I
answer
expound. You should
questions.
try that sometime.
Thank you. Right. So if we do take the sample size back, we see that Christianity has also contributed when
Yes.
injustice.
Yeah.
Christianity has
What is the
done
topic?
justice.
Brian, could you please remind us of the topic?
Right, no,
again?
I wanna
would
ask
like
you-
Brian to remind us of the topic.
No, I understand that.
Brian,
I just want to
He understands
know
the
why
topic.
is the
Let's let him
sample size?
finish.
Why is the sample size from modern day, right? Specifically, looking at a recent period.
Brian, what's the topic?
So
Let him
can
finish.
you address that or not?
Theatrics.
Yeah. So we're saying that if we take back the sample size, would we see better results from Islam or Christianity? Right.
Brian, what's the topic?
Is Christianity better for society?
Yeah, what's going on, Arfat? Walaikum salam. I said it, walaikum salam. How you doing?
than Islam.
Thank you.
And
there
how
we
are we
go.
going to
Okay.
observe that? Wait,
Okay.
how are we going to
How do
observe that IP? Can we
exactly,
observe it
based
historically?
on what you said,
Can we talk
the
about
historical development of what is
Right.
producing better society.
Right.
now, the West has clearly produced better societies.
Wait, the West is only
My
Christianity?
goodness,
Hey, just
man.
right now in this particular area
my
only.
God.
That's
So,
crazy.
What
Just
is
in this
society?
small period.
What does Christianity produce? Less child marriage, less oppression. Okay, that is not even up for debate. That has actually been demonstrated by models by Jonathan Fox, Grimm and Finke in their book, The Price of Freedom Denied. It has also produced less cousin marriage, which is also bad for humanity. So yes, and it's also produced better rights where we're not killing people for abandoning their religion because that's what Islam teaches. So all these things, yes, Islam is producing far worse societies. This is enough.
I mean, the thing, like, okay. Does he not understand that a lot of the countries like that are at war is from certain secular Christian countries bombing other countries? Like, what do you mean it's produced less deaths? And like, sure, maybe internally, if you want to argue internally, fine. You know, I'm not a historian. It would be hard for me to truly understand, you know, and to argue it from a place of like knowledge. You know, Christianity versus Islam when it comes to like internal laws, but externally, I mean, come on, dude. Like, come on, that's ridiculous.
For debate. We can just look at all the facts, and the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, so we want to like take this a bit forward, right? Because we also want to be able to critique your conception of what a good society is. Now, when it comes to Christianity or Western Christianity, you would admit that, for example, things like alcohol consumption is allowed. Now, when it comes to alcohol consumption, we see that, for example, 66% of domestic abuse cases are heavily impacted and influenced by alcohol consumption. So the question is very simple. If we have a society A, where there is no alcohol consumption, right, and it's completely forbidden, not allowed, and we have
All right, see, then this is a good argument here.
society B where it is allowed, which one would yield a better result insofar as domestic abuse, so on and so forth.
So you're saying, let me see if I can simulate. You're saying if a society is producing less domestic abuse, it's better.
Of course.
Okay, beautiful. There's a great study.
I just point out alcohol consumption. Though.
Okay, there's a great study called Intimate Partner Violence in Muslim Communities, showing that yes, there is more intimate partner violence in Muslim communities. So even with alcohol, you guys are still having more abuse of women, psychological, physical,
There's the
sexual, emotional abuse in your societies. So
Right.
even on that point, this works against you.
So again, the example, the question that I asked was specific regarding which society would be better, one that doesn't have alcohol consumption and one that does.
Depends on how much abuse it causes.
Okay, beautiful.
It's about the
So,
effects.
no, if
How much abuse?
if one causes high domestic abuse due to alcohol, it would be worse, right?
Wait. So if it causes more,
Right.
okay, yeah, it doesn't.
No. Again, to be very clear, what I'm saying is if we have a society where there is alcohol consumption that would lead to domestic abuse, and we have a society that doesn't have alcohol consumption that doesn't lead to domestic abuse, which one would be better?
The one that has less abuse.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
so
which is the West.
So again, Islam as a religion doesn't allow alcohol consumption, which doesn't contribute to the mass domestic abuse that is due to alcoholism that is found within the West.
It's causing more abuse regardless. This is what the research shows.
A society without alcohol
hold
is
on,
better,
no. I let you talk for a little while there. Your whole thing was like, we're going to go on, the society that's better is the one that is causing less abuse. The research shows multiple reviews have found that it is actually Muslim communities producing more abuse of
What's
their
the sample
women.
size?
What's the sample size? It's been done in I can pull it up right here if you want. I can pull it up.
Because yeah, go ahead,
think
put it
of the
up.
article.
Yeah.
So I told you the name of the paper, Intimate Partner Violence in Muslim communities.
What's the time and the location as well?
So they looked at multiple countries. So that's important. So they were not just looking at one; they looked at several over several years, for example.
Right.
So this was several studies here. So hold on, let me pull this up here. The first one is intimate partner violence in Muslim communities. Okay. The study. There's multiple studies authors. So Bonita Shama, for example.
Right,
Kenneth Flaglin. The second paper.
Do you know the size of the first one?
Second paper is Muslim women experience of domestic violence and abuse, a meta-ethnography of global evidence. And they specifically cite religious motivations coming from Islam.
What is the religious?
causing
Go
this.
ahead, prove it.
What are you talking about? You want
So
me to read it?
when you cite religious motivations, what is the religious motivation they're quoting?
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Here, so cultural beliefs often influence Islamic
Cultural.
values within a society.
Cultural?
Yeah, cultural beliefs.
What?
Okay. I've always said religious.
Let me read. You want me to read from the paper? Okay,
ahead.
I'm reading from the Muslim women experience of domestic violence and abuse, a meta-ethnography. Okay, cultural belief often influence Islamic values within a society. These religious values and beliefs were subject to the interpretation and guidance of religious leaders. Sharia law plays a role in shaping the behavior of many individuals within a
Can you
community.
give the evidence within Sharia
My
law?
goodness, he asked me to read a quote. I don't
Because
want to read the quote.
I'm asking something very specific here. What is
Sharia law
what is the
dictated.
evidence?
Sharia law dictated that women must be obedient to their husbands. Men felt empowered to punish.
Okay, what's your evidence for that? You can't first of all, that's a lie. Our religion allows for divorce. Your religion does not allow for divorce. So that's total crap.
Otherwise, if they perceive them as disobedient. Then it goes on to say, it is evident that religious beliefs were a strong influence on women's acceptance of DVA and reluctant to leave and seek help.
Beautiful.
That's the most emotional argument I've ever seen.
So again, regarding a specific topic, now let's quote the Sharia. The Messenger himself in authentic hadith says those.
Wait, do you acknowledge this shows this?
Yeah, I'm responding to it.
So you acknowledge this shows there's more violence,
I
there's
know
more
this
violence in
what
Muslim
it- I know-
communities?
Walaikum salam.
That's what she says. I'm responding to the
That's not what he
paper.
even said. He said that the effect of them not wanting to leave is due to
It's evident that religious was a strong influence on women's acceptance of DVA.
Right,
So-
but it's not them actually committing the act. It's just the women.
Exactly.
wanting to
The
leave.
prior quote shows that
But
yes,
them
they
actually
are.
committing the act was due to culture.
I need to read the other one
Yeah,
too?
it
Because
says,
it
it
was
says
culture.
culture in the
So-
first sentence.
Yeah, so I don't know what you're doing. You're just misquoting
and
this.
even
No,
if-
it shows that there's more violence in there, and the women are also
Can
accepting.
you just
it.
read the first sentence again?
Yeah, because of culture.
Yeah, culture beliefs often influence Islamic values.
Exactly.
Culture.
Wow,
Okay,
man.
so this goes back.
I'm not saying it's
but
just
hold on,
Islamic.
hold on.
That's a part of it. But they do say religious as well.
Okay, so
it's
if
gotta
it's
do
not
with
a
culture.
sufficient cause, then you can't attribute the actual cause to Islam.
Yes, I
It has
can.
to- No, you
I
can't.
agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. I always go into these debates being like, okay, this is gonna be an interesting watch, and then I'm like, oh wait, I totally bamboozled myself, right? Yeah, I think 2025, 2026 was kind of the the first half of this year was the year of debates, right? But I think at some point everyone just needs to take a deep breath. It's the same horse and pony show. We keep arguing the same things. Nothing's really getting solved. It's not really that interesting. Even this one, at least I would say this, for once, they're not spending a totally absurd amount of time. It's specifically, I'm gonna have to give credit where credit is due to Brian, even though to Brian Davila, Davila, whatever. Please forgive me if I mess up his name, but and he's not really moderating too much, but at least for once, he's they're not spending so much time on debating they're debating about how to properly debate, which is at least points are getting brought up, but yeah, I don't know. Walaikum salam.
It's not a sufficient cause.
Yeah,
Okay,
because you
so
don't
it
understand how
doesn't
sociology
happen.
works.
So this is
Hold on, you don't
wait,
understand how sociology works.
Hold on.
There are
You
multiple
don't
factors.
understand
There's
how Mill's
cultural,
method of differences
religious.
works.
There's poverty as well. But
Right.
Islam is also one of the factors according to the
Okay,
study.
but it is not a sufficient cause. That's the point. If it was a sufficient cause, then Islam would be the only and key
What?
factor of it.
No, that's never
what a
had-
sufficient cause is.
No,
Yeah.
that
Okay,
does
so
not make
is
sense.
Islam-
The paper literally opens up that culture was the cause.
At all.
So is Islam a sufficient cause?
Islam is a factor that leads to more violence.
I asked you, is it a sufficient cause?
That is irrelevant to the study.
No, it is
No, it's
literally
not.
not. I'm asking you, is it a sufficient cause to
My
say that
goodness.
Islam allows for domestic
Islam
abuse
is a
to
motivating
any
factor
society?
that leads to more violence according to these studies.
He doesn't want to
Can you
engage.
answer her question?
You don't want to engage.
Can you answer? Okay, hey, fair enough. It seems like this time, Like when it was the 3v3, Brian was kind of siding with the Christian side, but it seems like this time he's actually kind of like playing a little bit on both sides. I don't know. That's I gotta give him credit where credit is due.
The question is, what is the question? It's not following what I'm actually saying.
I know.
You're asking something
What
irrelevant
is the question? She repeated the question multiple times.
to my point.
Yeah, let's just
Because I
let's-
asked it before. You didn't address it before either.
Ask the
Okay.
question, and then we'll get a clear answer.
Is Islam a sufficient cause as it pertains to this type of violence towards women?
Okay, what do you mean by sufficient cause?
Sufficient cause meaning that it's the only thing which is necessary such that
No.
we would observe it to occur in every single Islamic society.
That is
it the
irrelevant.
case?
No, that's
I didn't
irrelevant to my
ask you
point.
if it's
He said
irrelevant.
no.
I asked
He
you
said
if-
no.
Oh,
I said no.
Okay, good.
See, I answered your
Okay,
question.
good.
See
So
how it
you
works?
finally answered the question.
No, it is irrelevant.
Good.
Okay.
So, no, it's not. No, it's irrelevant. Is it a yes or no? Okay.
It is not because you don't understand how
I didn't
sociology
ask him
works.
if it's irrelevant.
Let
I
me
asked
explain
him,
how sociology
is it the
works.
case that it is or isn't?
Let me
Now
explain how
you can say
sociology
he's not
works.
answering the question.
Let me explain how
Full of
sociology
God
works.
logic right now.
He needs to drink. Dude, he's crushing water. He is crushing water.
She wants a yes or no.
Okay, let me explain how sociology works.
I don't need an explanation.
want a God logic, yes or no?
Yeah, we're gonna call God logic like yes or no.
Okay.
I've minored in criminology. I've minored in
So that
sociology. I want you to engage.
you minored in sociology.
Yes.
So that you understand that when a study is performed, they have to look at multiple factors.
Exactly.
Great.
So what I'm asking you, and you don't want to engage with, is I'm asking you, is Islam sufficient on its own to produce these results, yes or no?
Never in sociology will that be the answer.
Oh my God. Okay.
Never.
So is
the
it not,
answer
is
is
it the
no.
case, yes or no?
Perfect.
I said no.
She
because
said
that's
no.
not how sociology
Okay.
works.
Good.
Do you understand? You
So
said
I'm
you
not
minored.
asking
You
you
should know
only-
how this
hold on.
works. Let's go back to his point. He said the society that produces.
All right, yo, this is getting bad. All right, we might have to switch it up at some point soon. Now they're arguing like that's I will say I don't know how this always happens, but they always deviate from the point so far, right? Instead of talking about which one's worse or which one's better for society, Islam or Christianity, they would rather talk about how like the explanation of how sociology works rather than actually debate the true question.
More abuse is going to be worse. I'm bringing studies like intimate partner violence in Muslim communities. To quote, in general, these studies found high prevalent levels of IPV among Muslims living in the US and globally. Consistent with IPV research in general, verbal and psychological abuse was found most prevalent, followed by physical, sexual, and fatal. Individual, family, and interlocking social problems, traditional beliefs, and spirituality, immigration-related stressors were associated. There. See, I didn't say it's the only thing.
Good.
Okay. With
So
IPV
it's not engaging with my answer, my question.
studies on beliefs of IPV found that there tended to be higher leniency and justification of abuse in Muslim cultures than is the Western norm. So
Good.
by
Doesn't
that
address my
logic,
question.
hold up, back to that logic. By that logic, you guys have accidentally conceded Muslim societies are worse because there's more abuse according to the data.
Doesn't address my question. Okay.
Because
my
that's not
because we're
question's on the
talking about
topic.
Islam. Okay. We're talking about Islam as it pertains for societies. Okay. If there are Islamic societies such that this does not occur, then you cannot say that Islam is going to be the sufficient cause in regards to this occurring in a society.
So
that's the whole point.
You have raised the bar to extreme levels where now
Like in his defense though, right? Like yeah, like the truth of the matter is like the data I guess supposedly shows I don't know what the thing says. Let's just take it to be true for argument's sake, right? You know, if there is a culture of, you know, potentially like immigrants, you know, coming over, if this was about the United States specifically, or even, you know, maybe in the broader global community, right? You know, that is not a good look, right? That is definitely not a good look if there are, you know, examples of, you know, immigrants here in America, you know, and there's domestic abuse, or if there's like cultures from Eastern cultures, like that's just not a good look. So to give him some credit, right? Is it specifically a Islam problem? The answer is no. But is there cultures that where people come from Muslim countries? You know, maybe.
we can't say anything. Once again, like the last
Don't blame me,
conversation,
blame
you
those.
went nuclear. You basically just said we can't use anything
That's a straw
because
man.
we need a. Yeah,
That's not
That's a
true.
straw man, I
That's not
think.
true because, for
Is there
example,
more
for
abuse in
example,
Muslim
I'll tell you
communities?
why that's not the case.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why
Is there
that's not
more?
the case.
Is there more abuse in Muslim
I'm going to
communities?
tell you why that's not
We'll
the
get
case.
to the point.
I'm going to tell you why that's not the case. Because there are certain aspects of any religious text or any text that we interpret in general, okay, there are certain aspects such that we can determine that because the vast majority of the people all adhere to it or all accept it within regards to that particular doctrine that we're talking about or anything of the sort, that this is a sufficient cause for it. For example, affirming Tawheed. That is something every Muslim will affirm, okay?
I really like how you just make up these statements. Like you but yeah, thank you for your commentary, Paul.
Ergo, we could say it's Quran or Islam in general is a sufficient cause in regards to affirming Tawheed as it pertains to Muslims. But you cannot come to that same conclusion as it pertains to specific laws and rulings, because there are different people who have interpreted it in different ways over time, such that they allow culture, society, etc.
Yeah, should we just do a quick Google search? I don't even want to waste our time Google searching on any of that.
to influence and impact their decision on their interpretation.
So according to you, we can't know anyway. We can't know anything here. We can't know
I
anything.
literally just did
Done,
the
your
opposite.
response. Done, your
I
Let's move
studied
forward.
the
Let's move forward.
opposite.
Let's move
Every
forward on
time
this
I let
point.
them talk, notice what's happening, guys. I let them talk. Then I try to talk. They jump in and start interrupting me because they can't handle the data here.
You said,
We
you
go
said
into-
you can't
I'm
do
using-
anything. That's all you said.
There they go again.
That's
There they
all
go
you
again.
said. Yeah.
Okay.
You said
I'm
it like
going
you're
back to
a
what
duck.
you said. You said societies that produce more abuse are going to be worse. We can see the data. Even with alcohol consumption, Muslim societies are producing more abuse. It's in the studies I'm citing. Therefore, Muslim societies produced by Islam are worse than what Christian societies have produced. That's it. That's the debate right there. Thank you for coming.
Let's move to the next point.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Consanguineous marriage is
So-
cousin marriage.
so
Do
again,
you
s-
agree
s-
cousin marriage is okay?
Yeah, again, so when it comes
Yeah, I mean, let's just look at the United States on that final point, right? What are statistics on abuse in the United States? And I'm not saying the United States is a Christian country, but just so you can understand. Okay, wow. Well, I was going to say in 2022, an estimated 600,000 children were confirmed victims of abuse and neglect in the United States. And I'm not saying this is a Christianity specific problem. I'm just looking at the United States as a whole, right? I'm not even trying to say that this is Christian specific. Domestic abuse. Let's see. Domestic abuse in the United States: 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men aged 17 plus. Nearly 1 in 2 women will experience physical violence from an intimate partner at some point in their life. Wow, that's horrible. Jeez. 1 in 2. 1 in 10 men and 29% of women have experienced rape, physical violence, and or stalking by a partner. I mean, come on. 47% of men have encountered contact, sexual violence, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner. Almost 50% of men. Yeah, I would like to understand also, like, I think it would be interesting, like, what is the numbers of, like, straight versus, like, homosexual, what are atheists versus Christianity. But yeah, again, I just, the issue is, like, when you're trying to pin it on specifically it being a religion issue, right? Here's my POV. Like, trying to say it's a product of Christianity or it's a product of Islam, I think it's super disingenuous, right? There's bad people all over. There's bad Muslims, there's bad Christians, there's bad atheists, and just there's good Muslims, there's good Christians, there's good atheists, right? But saying it's a direct product, I think that's just like, that's generalizing. That's such an over the top statement, Yeah. I have issues with trying to, like, pigeonhole, one, even either or Christianity or Muslims as being, like, the reason for domestic abuse. Which, one thing I did like that he said, that I can't remember what his channel name or what his name is, this middle guy here, is that, if you look at, like, some of the laws, right? So his law, one law that I looked up was alcohol, right? If alcohol is, it's 67% of the reason why, abuse even happens to begin with, right? What society is better? One that allows alcohol and one that doesn't allow alcohol. Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, you summarized it perfectly, right? No KO. It's just when Muslims do it, right? When it happens to be a Muslim person doing it, then Islam is the problem. Yeah, it's just I totally agree with you, and I'm not saying, like, I'm obviously not defending Muslims that do it. I'm obviously not saying that it never happens. Muslims never do this. I can't be confident to say these type of statements because I'm not going to generalize here. I'm sure it does happen. I'm sure it happens in all types of communities, all religious backgrounds, whatever it may be. I'm sure it has happened before at least once. But trying to pigeonhole it, I think, can be a little disingenuous. But I guess when it comes down to what produces it more, who knows, man? Who really knows? As you can see, people try to say Christianity, this is a Christian country. I mean, the numbers do not look great. The numbers look really bad.
to exactly what you mean by cousin marriage is going to be very nuanced. So, for example, in societies where there is a repeated cousin marriage that is explicitly condemned and something that is frowned upon within Islam, Umar ibn Khattab talks about this, and Imam Shafi'i talks about this as well, that if it is going to be repeated, where it is going to cause harm to the child, then it's going to be something that's shouldn't be done. That's what Islam teaches, right? So Islam, where it is implemented, then it's going to cause people followers of that text that there's not going to be repeated cousin marriage. But referring to simply like a one instance cousin marriage, I don't believe that would entail harm necessarily, right? You have to prove that.
So, do you agree there is far more cousin marriage in the Islamic world than in the Western
I
world?
don't believe that Islam is the
I would on first answer I would probably say yes, but that's just me guessing.
cause.
Yeah. But is there more?
You'd have to read the data, but
So there's a lot more cousin marriage. In, for example, in Pakistan, the rate's like 65%.
Beautiful.
Okay, so there's a lot more cousin marriage. Where are they getting that from?
not Islam. Can you prove it's
Yeah,
Islam?
exactly. It
Yes,
goes,
yes.
This
Yes, I
literally will
can.
go
Yes.
back to
But that could also just be a cultural thing. But yeah, I mean I think that's fair. I don't see an issue with that statement.
every single one of the points that you bring up in regards to this. Mill's method of difference is going to literally be a thorn for you right now. You don't want to address the fact that it can't be a sufficient cause if it's the case it's not occurring in every single Islamic society.
That doesn't follow
the
at all.
crux of the matter.
No. Let me address that. That doesn't follow at all.
Okay,
because
yeah.
there are several factors involved. So for example, in some societies, for example, there's Christianity is everywhere. Okay? But we can say for example, we go to New Orleans, there's going to be a lot more crime than like Vermont. Okay. Why? Because we know in sociology there are numerous factors. There's a lot more poverty in southern Louisiana. So that's going to be another motivating factor. So that's what happens a lot often in these societies. They factor out those kind of things. But the studies I'm citing have done multivariable analyses. They have factored out things like poverty, like education levels. They still find intimate partner violence, higher levels of child marriage. Okay, more.
How can you actually? Okay, I'm confused. Maybe he's looking at it like people that have like medium income or like medium education, and still on the whole, maybe that's how it is. I just find it hard to hard to not use those statistics, but subhanAllah, maybe there's a way.
in
So
persecution.
I want to focus on cousin marriage specifically.
Yeah,
I don't
cousin
wanna
marriage.
go from that.
Okay,
Right.
now I want to get back to that point. Okay,
So wait,
so
can you let me
is
explain?
not Muhammad the pattern of conduct for Muslims?
Again,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just really quick, and then he could address you on that point. So what I wanted to ask you, or rather say, is when it comes to a motivation, finding a motivation for a particular thing, what he already explained to you is that within our Islamic doctrine, within our Islamic teachings, early on, what we find, both the Caliph as well as people who are contemporary to the Caliph afterwards, they say that this is something which should not be encouraged. Okay, not only should it not be encouraged, but what we find is that they say that it is better for you to go and do something else, so that, and he states the specific reason as to why he says so that.
Why do they say that?
I'll tell you. He says specifically, Imam Shafi'i says specifically, so that your children do not end up as fools. He literally says it
Good,
verbatim. Good.
good.
So there is motivation. Now this is a question I want to ask you.
but he's building that nature, right? Nature? Nature, yeah.
I'm not done. Okay. So when it comes to this particular point, what I'm asking you, is there some basis or motivation within Islamic text or theology such
So
that
she's saying that historians are saying that they did their own research and that it would be better to not have the type of marriages, specifically cousin marriages, so that you could have a better chance of having better genetics, right? Your children aren't fools, right? And so again, this isn't a product of Islam; it would be a product of that country, like their culture and whatnot.
the opposite is also
From what I'm just kind of repeating what her argument is.
allowed to occur?
Cousin marriage?
The opposite. So not allowing for it, or not encouraging
Okay,
it.
I'm confused about what you're asking.
Yeah,
Are you asking,
specifically-
does the Islamic text allow cousin marriage?
Does it allow for it insofar as not encouraging the closeness of it? Okay, because saying the word cousin is going to be very vague.
First
Okay,
cousins.
The issue, okay, yeah, sure, first cousin is allowed. But the reason as to why it's not good is because over time, if you continue this particular type of behavior,
Beautiful.
that's what leads to these types of issues, which is exactly what Imam Shafi'i and Umar radiallahu anhu both state.
Where do they get that
so
from?
I'm asking you, okay, they get it from based off of natural understanding.
Exactly. They don't get it from Islam.
Right, so
they get it from
it's
science, from
mandatory.
nature. They're not. Islam is allowing
Wait,
cousin
hold on,
marriage
hold on,
because
hold on,
again,
hold on, real
you want to let me
quick,
show?
real quick.
Okay, I'll let you talk for a
He's
while.
kind of arguing their side right now.
Let me now address this. Okay, exactly. They were
The thing
able
is
to go.
that the Quran is like the basic format of what law should be, right? It doesn't encourage these things. It's just like, here are the basic laws that society has to have. It doesn't say that you have to do these things. It just says, and when it comes to marriage, it tells you specifically who you're not allowed to marry. It doesn't say, oh, marry your cousin. It says, don't marry your mother or your sister or, your aunt or whatever, or your father's children or whatever it may be. It tells you specifically who you are not allowed to marry. And so, again, it's the basic. Like, are you allowed to marry a first cousin? Sure, right? Would that be good? Is that something that people should practice? Probably not, right? But it just, it has to be a book that's for all times, right? And so you don't know. Maybe it's a war-stricken society, and anything could happen, right? And so, yeah, again, it doesn't encourage it. It's the basic. It's just the minimum requirement for law, right?
And go, hey, all these generations of cousin marriages leading to lower IQ and all these birth defects, we shouldn't do this. But they're not getting that from Islam. They're getting that from their understanding of how the natural world works. Meanwhile, in Islam, Muhammad married his first cousin. He married his daughters, the first cousins. So according to Islamic teaching, that's why it keeps happening throughout the Islamic world. This is why you have rampant cousin marriage in the Islamic world. Meanwhile, in the West, we have gotten rid of that.
Good. Notice what the issue is. It's not specifically marrying first cousins. The issue that they highlight is that over time, if it's done repeatedly, that's where the issue occurs, correct?
Where does Islam say that just don't do it repeatedly?
They're literally the sources that we use. So if we're going to go based off of an Islamic standard, then according to the Quran, you follow these contemporaries of Muhammad, peace be upon him, such as
they're not getting that from Muhammad or the Quran.
Hold on. The Quran tells you to follow in their example. If we're going to follow in their example and follow in what they say, such that it's not something that contradicts Islam, there's no issue with accepting what they say. So, Ergo, they do have basis for making these statements, because when the Quran, for example, talks about taking from people of knowledge, people of knowledge is going to be an expert or having an expertise in that specific field. So if there are individuals who are Muslims at that time and they have some sort of expertise in the field of marriage and how this occurs in society and so on and so forth, if they say that over time what they see is that due to doing it multiple different times, right, or interbreeding multiple different times between first cousins, what it leads to is a deterioration of whether it be brains or anything of the sort. And then this is something that should be avoided. You are to listen to them according to the Quran. And there's no issue with that.
All right. Now, I just want to notice what happened. I let her respond. She went on for a good minute there. I wonder if
this is the ultimate tactic, right? Waste time. Now that's what they do every time, and now they start to debate on how to debate.
I get to do that. Let's see if I can get this.
Go ahead.
So,
don't ask questions.
Okay, so once again, once again, they're getting that from their understanding of nature. That's my point. But again, now we got to go back to the broader picture. What is actually happening? Islamic societies are producing societies that have rampant cousin marriage, and they're having lower IQs, more birth defects. This is also contributing to less economic progress.
Yeah, I know. I don't think he really gets it, but he's actually right now is a decent point.
Okay, because Western societies have actually gotten rid of it. They've gotten rid of it. It's all done away with. Very low, less than 1% in the.
But yeah, exactly what you said. It's the bare minimum. It doesn't mean you encourage it. It's the bare minimum of how the law works. And again, show me a verse in the Quran where it says you're allowed to just for my own understanding, right? Maybe I'm wrong on this, but let's just see. Is there a verse in the Quran that explicitly says that you are allowed to marry your cousin? And I would happily concede this fact if I'm wrong. It says prohibited, yeah. We have made, okay, so it does say right here, we have made lawful. Okay, so there is actual evidence for this. Okay, perfect. All right, now I know. Alhamdulillah. I remember seeing this, prohibited, but it says we have made lawful for you, to you, your wives, to whom you've been given due compensation, and daughters of your parental uncles. Okay, so cousins are, there is a law that says we have made lawful. Okay, alhamdulillah.
West, for example. Okay, that just means we're producing.
But yeah, even so on this point, right? Even so on this point, it doesn't say you should go marry. It just says we've made lawful. It is law. It's allowed. It doesn't mean it's haram. It doesn't mean that you're doing complete evil. But it also doesn't mean that we encourage you to do it.
Producing better societies. Now, if you want to say, well, that Islam is not the motivating factor, I'm using your standard now. You're going to scientific aspects, people studying nature. So by your own admission, the standard you set up earlier, they're not getting that. They're not getting the idea that cousin marriage is bad from Islam. If we go to what Islam just says, guess what's happening? Cousin marriage is allowed and it's growing. Then we just need to look at societies at large. What's happening? The West is producing far better societies because we have higher IQs, because we have less cousin marriage. That is a contributing factor, okay? And then, I'm almost done. Meanwhile, Islamic societies are producing worse societies, more child marriage, more abuse, and now we know more cousin marriage, which lowers the collective IQ. This is bad.
Right. So to come to the conclusion that you're saying is that if you look at society X, society Y, for example, we see that X society has something bad compared to this society, but there is a few things that you're not factoring in, right? So for some odd reason, when I said let's take the sample size and spread it even larger, for someone we had an issue with that. I don't believe that taking the sample size bigger, where you can look at more historical context.
Yeah, no one's saying that that it doesn't, but also like, you know, there's a super high probability that either your grandparents or your great grandparents, someone from like 2 or 3, like 4 generations above you were cousin marriages. Like it's almost like 100% the case that if we go like 6 generations above ourselves, there was a cousin marriage involved, right? That's just the case. And so yeah, in a modern sense, is there more like from my like non like I don't have any data to back this up, I would agree on the fact that there are probably more cousin marriages happening in Muslim countries than there are in Western countries, right? I'm not gonna say Christian countries. I'm just gonna say Western because there are really no like Western Christian countries. All right, I'll say Western. That probably is the truth. And is there the potential that it would lead to genetic defects? Absolutely, right? Like you know, we can be honest about that. Now is that a product of Islam or is that a product of culture? Right? Is what it comes down to.
Undermines the prompt in every shape or form, because you're still looking at society, you're still looking at the effect. And just because we see, for example, Western countries that are part of NATO that have a better economic factors, and we have Muslim countries in the Middle East where they have worse economic factors, where they could be driving, where they are driving factors for these consequences that we see, right? You cannot pin this on Islam and say that this is because of Islam, right? So I would argue that if we take the sample back even further, we can argue for things like alcohol abuse. We can argue for things like unaliving of the Jews, 70,000 Jews being unalived by the Christians, right? And this is from Christian societies. If we take this back, and also one point I want to comment on is that if we appeal to natural law as Muslims, that renders me a more relativist. It doesn't follow.
That was something different. Okay. That's not what I was talking about.
I want to comment on that because for some odd reason you have an issue with Muslims appealing to natural law when natural law is something that is taught within Islam. Why? Because in Sunni Islam, we believe that there is going to be things that are going to be inherently known as immoral or the natural disposition that we can use, aka natural law. So natural law in Islam doesn't contradict taking the messenger to be the moral example because he's the one that sets those standards. And according to the hadith where he explicitly says, لا ضر ولا ضرار, no harm, no reciprocating harm, right? And the only thing you said, oh, well, people interpret it differently. Well, the thing is, if you take the traditional view, that anything that entails harm, physical and mental harm, is going to be not allowed. Okay. So, real quick, would you agree that if we take the sample size back, then there'll be different results from what you're concluding?
The government is going to ban it. Oh, really? Pakistan government banning cousin marriages. Let's see it. Let's see if there's any news about it. Oh, wow. 2026. April. The government has introduced a bill proposing a complete ban of cousin marriages within the Kalash community. So I guess a certain state or governing area sets a minimum requirement for including mental fitness and minimum age of 18. All marriage and divorce records will be maintained. So is like the Kalash like a state, essentially like a state or a territory within Pakistan? Interesting.
You mean history? Is that what you're talking about? Okay. Yeah. We're talking the whole of history here. Okay.
Yeah.
So you just can't go to like, well, maybe like 300 years ago it was different. We have to take the whole of history
Thank
here.
you.
The whole of history shows Christian societies are far better, and one of the results is cousin marriage, consanguineous marriages. They're far more rampant in Islamic societies. So let me give you an analogy to help you with this. Okay. So take Ozempic.
That is fair on this sense because we did look it up and they did outlaw cousin marriages all the way to like 6 cousins in like the 12th century. So that's another fair point.
Ozempic was produced, they came up with it, to help with type 2 diabetes. But then they discovered it also helps with weight loss. So it produced an unintended result. Now when we look at Christian societies coming from Christianity, Islamic societies coming from Islam, one of the unintended results is cousin marriage. There's far less in the West, a ton more in the Islamic world. That just shows that Islam is... I almost was done. I'm almost done. So Islam is producing far worse societies because you have rampant cousin marriage. Okay, you may not have intended that, you may not think that is, but this is still just a reality on the ground.
Beautiful. So again, you did concede that if we take the sample size, that it would be different. But the studies that you saw...
I know. You absolutely nailed that one. Yeah, Naveed, you absolutely nailed that one.
Don't account for history, IP. You would agree that the sample size that you quoted only...
because they can't.
Right, exactly. So you would agree that it doesn't account for history, right?
They can't. It's impossible in sociology.
Beautiful, exactly. So when you say that, when you reference a model, for example, where it's like 1988 to like 2010, where you reference a country where it has like bad socioeconomic factors, it would then follow that we would expect there to be worse societies compared to the West. Obviously, right? But we can't take that and conclude that Islam is going to be worse for society. Why? Because Islam doesn't inherently teach those things are going to be abhorrent.
Brother,
it doesn't.
We're talking about what these religions have produced. If we look through the whole of history, what has come from Islam? What has come from Christianity? Which has more cousin marriage today? The Islamic society or Christian? Which one?
So if I was to take this, for example,
which one?
Of course, Islam would be better.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Absolutely. It has been Muslim countries. Is that attributed 100% to Islam? It's hard to tell. I guess he's making an argument. Fair enough. Does that mean it's a morally bad country, though? But yeah, absolutely. When it comes to causing problems in gene pools, yeah, for sure. You can concede that. I don't think that's wrong to concede.
Islam has more cousin marriage.
No, Islam would be better.
His question was, which society produced more cousin marriage?
Right. So this is very like flimsy because I don't know if we're talking about first cousin or like repeat cousin marriage.
First cousin marriage.
So I don't believe that first cousin marriage was like not repeated is going to be immoral. I don't believe that. We don't.
I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying cousin marriage is necessarily immoral, but it is. For example, eating sugar is not immoral.
Right.
But if you eat a lot of sugar, you're going to affect your health.
So
Likewise, we can set aside the moral issue on the table right now. We can set it aside.
Okay, beautiful.
Okay,
Regardless,
I'm glad. This was literally what I was just talking about, so I'm glad they're talking about this.
Cousin marriage still makes worse societies. You just admitted there is more cousin marriage in Islamic society, and I'm even granting it's just a side effect. Doesn't matter. That shows Islam has produced worse societies. Case closed.
So if I was to take the sample back, when, let's say, for example, 70,000 Jews were unalived by the Christians, right? And wait, we're living at the time, me and you are living at the time, and we say, hey, look, we see more violence perpetrated by the Christians from the Roman Catholics against the Jews. At that time point, from that time frame, if we're having the same debate at that time, would then for that, because Christianity is going to be more violent towards Jews, that therefore Islam will be better as society?
So again,
would it follow? No.
No. You
have to answer this question.
No.
Dude, okay, I think this guy's cool and smart, but I want to hear from this homie, bro. I want to hear, dude. This guy spits fire.
Be better as society?
So again,
would it follow? No.
No. You
have to answer this question.
No. Okay, restate the question because it's so irrelevant to what we're talking about. We're talking about cousin marriage. You're talking about violence.
Yeah, because we're talking about which is better, right?
Yeah, which has produced better societies.
If we're at a time when 70,000 Jews were unalived by the Romans, by the Christians, at that point, and we're having the same debate, and we saw that Christianity or Christian countries will produce more violence, would you then agree that at that point, if we're having the same debate... Wait, one second. At that point, let me finish. At that point, if we're having the same debate, you would agree that Christianity would have been producing more...
Man, I don't know how they drink this much water and they don't have to go to the bathroom, man.
Violence. It would be worse, right?
So in a possible world, not our world, where there's more violence.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, if it's producing more violence, it's bad. Guess what? Islam produces more violence.
So it's arbitrary. Thank you.
No, I didn't.
Historically
I said
speaking,
possible
Christianity
world.
was the worst religion,
Hold
and
on.
it got a
You
little bit
just
better
cooked
over
yourself.
time.
You don't realize.
Beautiful.
You said in a possible world.
The government's trying to ban it in Beirut provinces too. Okay, good to know.
If a society is producing more violence, that's bad. I got some bad news for you. There's been studies shown. For example, Davis Brown's book, War, Religion, in a Secular Age, shows that Christianity has a restrictive war ethic. It produces less interstate armed conflict. Meanwhile, Islam has a permissive war conflict. So not only do we have more child marriage, we have more abuse, we have more cousin marriage, as you admitted. Now we're going on to violence. Guess what? Islamic societies are producing more violence, as the research by Davis Brown, Jonathan Fox, Monica Duffy-Toff has shown.
Wow, so yeah. What do those names scream at you?
So guess what? In your possible world, when we apply it to this reality, it shows Islam is more violent. Thank you for that.
I expose it because now your criteria has become arbitrary.
No, it isn't.
It is.
No.
Because I just shown you that the studies that you're making are based upon factors that...
Which ones have produced genocide at insane levels, right? You know, there's been 40 million abortions in the United States in the 1980s, right? Since the 1970s, due to economic sanctions alone from the United States and the EU, there's been almost 40 million deaths since the 1970s, right? So 80 million people have died from either abortion or economic sanctions, right?
To do with socio-economic factors in the Middle East.
No.
It doesn't account for all of
That's
history.
false.
And if we were to
That is
take,
false.
let me finish. And if we take that back the sample,
Like, imagine, like, you say that since the 1970s, 80 million were killed due to like one country's like military and economic might, right? Like how could you say that's a moralistically better society if it's killed 80 million people?
to a point where there was violence perpetrated against innocents, women, children, then you would concede in that possible world where it was a reality at some point.
Possible world.
That was
Not a reality.
That was a reality at some point. That Christianity would be better.
No, it wasn't.
Thank
no,
you.
it wasn't. Here's the problem.
So
you don't
we
know
are-
how these
sorry.
studies work. Okay, they don't just go, a lot of violence happened over there, less violence happened over there, therefore better.
That's
so
straw man.
Davis
No.
Brown, for example, factors in those socioeconomic factors you were bringing up. So they're taking.
But not even like bring up the Crusades, right? Like and yeah, I'm like again, it's hard to even call like a lot of these Western countries Christian. I wouldn't even categorize it as that. But yeah, is there a Christian influence in the law? I would say absolutely. But yeah, when it comes down to the West versus like Muslim countries, it's night and day. Ones that have caused way more genocide for sure. If you just want to like look at it from that factor, when it comes to genocide, I mean it's night and day.
This kind of stuff in. They're factoring in things like poverty, like education levels, regional disputes, fighting over resources. And after they factor all those things in, they're still finding that Islam is producing more interstate armed conflict.
What was the evidence for that?
Davis Brown's book, War, Religion, in the Secular Age.
Right, so what was the evidence that the socioeconomic factors are going to be insignificant in relation to Islam?
The socioeconomic, because he factored them in. He's factoring
Right,
in
so
like, so he's looking
how is it they factor them in
so
and
he's
conclude
looking
that
at
Islam
multiple,
is going to be
he's,
a cause?
he's looking at multiple countries.
Right.
So he's looking at countries in North America, Middle East, Europe, Asia, Africa, all around. And then he says, well, okay, now we need to use the model to weigh in certain things. So we need to add a weight to poverty. Because, for example, countries in Europe are going to be richer.
Right.
So we need to now know, could all the interstate armed conflict be coming from higher levels of poverty? Okay, no, we're still finding the variable there even when we factor in poverty. Could it be coming over education levels?
Okay.
No, we're still finding that.
So for
that's
example,
why sociologists run these
If you
models.
look at like a country like Indonesia, right, where
I mean, they've just been migrating, right? They started with European countries, then they, went from Great Britain, and then they used Great Britain to kind of enact a lot of their, the colonization of Palestine, and then they used the USA as their military, right? 250 years later, the U.S. is cuckolded by another state that calls itself divinely chosen.
it is a Muslim country, right, where we see that it has a good GDP, where it is performing relatively well, and it's a Muslim country, that would undermine the study done by these researchers in case, I'll tell you why. One, because we're looking at sample size, we're looking at whether or not poverty will essentially be a factor. So we have two countries, both are Muslim, right? One has poverty, one doesn't have poverty, and we see these issues exceedingly happen in countries where there is poverty.
Yes, poverty is a factor that
Thank you.
also contributes to interstate armed conflict, just like Islam does. Another factor.
Yeah,
So multiple
that
factors.
wouldn't be
So
the
if you're a
case.
country, that is Islamic and poor, you have more violence. If you're a country like, for example, Dubai, UAE, excuse me, who has wealth but Islam, you're going to have less interstate armed conflict, less wars, less civil wars, that kind of stuff. Poverty is also a factor. I'm not denying there are not other factors, but
that's-
Islam is still a factor.
That's the whole point, is that you can't just say that it's because of Islam. It is mainly these other factors that are coming into play. Because
No.
Dude, he literally just said that.
it's the case, it's Islam, okay, then you are saying effectively it's a sufficient cause. It literally goes back to every single point that you make.
Okay, so I need to know what you're saying. Are you
Okay.
saying that if there are any other factors involved in society, we cannot say Islam is a cause of one war?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying even if it's the case, there are other factors, okay, it's in order for Islam to be
Yeah,
the
you can't say it's because of Islam. You could say, sure, maybe you can argue it could be a portion of a factor, but it doesn't necessitate at all.
reason as to why this is the case, it would have to be prevalent in every single one of those Islamic societies.
Yes.
Okay, but since it's the case that we
Exactly.
observe
And he just used an example that doesn't happen in the UAE.
the opposite, where it's not the case in every single society. So, for example, if we're going to take the violence thing, Pakistan versus UAE, right? What we observe is that due to the fact that one of them is more affluent than the other one, there is less violence that is occurring, correct?
More affluent. So if there's more wealth, is what you mean?
Yeah,
basically?
yeah,
yeah. More wealth does decrease interstate armed conflict. Another
Good.
That's awesome.
factor.
But both of them have two factors that are being weighted
Two
or created
factors,
right
yeah.
now. Okay, one of them is going to be the wealth, the other one's going to be Islam in and of itself. Okay,
Both of
but
Islam.
what we find is that not both of them have these issues occurring in them at the same rate. Correct?
yeah, not at the same rate. Yeah, that's
Good.
why they have to be
Good.
weighed.
So it can't be due to specific. And by the way, that also, the part about the UAE and the violence part, there's still going to be poverty-stricken areas in the
Of
UAE,
course, yeah.
such that those violence or that violent stuff can occur in those areas, right? But typically, the more affluent areas, you don't find that there. Correct?
The more affluent areas, yes, will have less fighting.
Right.
gang-
It's typically in
yeah.
the areas that have fundamentalist views. Correct?
Yeah,
Not definitely not
absolutely.
traditionalist ones.
Yes.
Right.
I
Not
mean, bro, just look at like Chicago. Like, look at like Chicago versus like other places, or even parts of LA, right? Even like micro parts of San Francisco, right? In the rich places in San Francisco, there's no crime. But downtown, oh yeah, it's bad.
traditionalist views. Correct?
Oh, yeah. Depends on how you define traditionalist or fundamentalist.
Like,
Meaning-
you can
meaning
literally
people
just
who
make like it just it honestly comes down to like now that I'm like really like reflecting on it, like depending on how affluent or how much wealth a geographical location has, it's gonna be the dominating factor on how well educated people are and if there's crime or not. Like on what do the rates of crime look like?
Just want to take their own interpretation as opposed to those who are taking an orthodox interpretation of Islam.
We're getting way off topic. This is irrelevant to the point, though. What
It
you're
literally
trying
is.
to
It's
do,
directly to the point.
what you're trying to do is trying to say that if we can show any other factor, then we can say that's the cause of the interstate armed conflict. Okay, but
No,
that's not how that works.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you can't come to the conclusion that it is because of Islam that this
Yes, I
is
can.
the reason. No, you
you
can't.
can't.
Then
It is
you're
one of the
effectively-
reasons. I
Okay,
see you
yes,
strawmanning
one of
me.
the reasons. Hold on. One of the
Thank
reasons.
you. It is
wait,
one of
wait,
the
wait,
reasons.
wait.
That's all I wanted.
But in the same way that Christianity was one of the reasons why the Crusades happened, why it was one of the reasons why the Jews were persecuted and Muslims saved them afterwards. It goes the same way both ways. That's
it's one of the
whole point.
reasons.
In the same way that
Okay,
Christianity
correct.
was one of the
Which
reasons.
is producing less conflict.
Depends on what time period you're talking about. Because if we're talking about
And
back then, we were talking
And what
about
type of conflict?
Which has
Crusades.
produced a society that has produced less conflict.
depends on the time period, like I just said.
Okay, today,
now.
right
Yeah,
now.
let's say now.
Which
Even if you look at the 1630s, right, in the British Empire, there was civil war in the British Empire in the 1630s, right, and that's a Christian there's brothers versus brothers, civil war happening in a Christian nation. I mean, United States civil war, right? Was that because of Islam or was that because of economic issues, racial issues, whatever it may be?
all of history together, which has produced societies that have less conflict?
Depends on which societies we're talking about still.
Islamic
Because if we're
versus Christian.
Hold on. Because there are different Islamic and Christian societies,
Okay,
correct?
which has produced
And
less
there was multiple civil wars happening in England at that time in the 1630s.
conflict.
Okay, fine. I'll answer your question. No problem. I'm going to compare Mexico and the UAE. UAE
Oh my
has definitely
goodness.
done it less.
Okay, so we're now gonna cherry pick samples
Well,
here, guys.
that's effectively what
That's all he's been doing, bro. But to be fair, that's all every single one of them has been doing the entire time.
Only today. Only today. Who is better, Christianity or Islam?
Look at what just happened.
Nice, man.
Hey, man, even
We just
Brian agrees,
cherry
right?
picked
That was
because
a
she
funny answer.
knows that the Islamic society at large has produced worse countries with more
I just
child
gave you an
marriage,
example.
more
Bro,
consanguineous.
if you look at South America, right? If you look at South America, and that's definitely Christian dominated, right? Mostly Christian dominated. There are obviously a lot of influence of Islam in South America for sure. I'm not saying that there isn't, but I mean, come on, dude. South America is bad.
marriages, more abuse,
What about
and now
Brazil?
more conflict. Okay, this is all coming out of Islam, and we just saw that. That's why this is what the data shows. At the end of the day, this is not a debate.
Like I'll be honest, my review of this is I don't even think he's necessarily that wrong on some of these things. Like some of the things he especially the cousin marriage, sure, I could be willing to concede the point where that could be bad for genetics. As everyone in this group chat had in this live stream have said, right? I think we can all agree with that cousin marriages on the long run would not be good for society because it could produce a very genetically deficient society. I think we could agree with that. right? And if he's saying that's a byproduct of Islam because Islam allows it, then that's a fair argument on his point. Case in point, but even so, we have other Islamic scripture. What I mean by that, I mean like hadith from the Prophet Muhammad, as Kalila has brought up, peace be upon him. We also have like Islamic historians that even mention the fact that it's not good for society. So, in the long term. So, I see his point. We have Islamic scholarly understanding, and even from our Prophet saying that it's not, you should be seeking out marriage aside from, the cousin unit. But culturally speaking, in some of these countries like Pakistan and maybe Afghanistan or wherever, it does happen, and maybe that isn't good. So fair enough. If we wanted to argue for the sake of argument and someone had to win, we can give them that point. Right. But, it's just like, yeah, it's just made me see like, okay, he just hasn't been as like willing to concede other points. He's not been willing to look at himself in the mirror when it comes to the arguments that he's making.
This is just one of us talking about the numbers and one of us trying to get rid of the numbers.
Brazil's got those high numbers of consanguineous marriage as well, and it's a Christian country.
Okay.
Is Christianity a reason?
Who produces less?
Wait, is Christianity a reason for that?
The whole point is that you're
less?
going based off of a particular Islamic country or a few particular ones. It's not the case in every single Islamic country.
I agree.
Good. So is it the case that it's like that in every single Christian country?
No.
Good. So then that can't be a factor to
It
say
is a
one is
factor.
better than or worse than the
Here's
other.
what you're not getting.
Oh my
when
God.
you factor in all the countries, you see this as a reoccurring thing where you're going to get more consanguineous marriages.
Yes,
you're
we
gonna
find
get
it in
more
both
Hold on, let
Christianity
me
and
finish.
Islam.
I just let you talk.
You find it in both.
I just let you talk.
God.
It's going to be okay.
Go
It's
ahead.
okay. We're still seeing that after that is all weighed. For example, you brought up Brazil, but there are other weighing factors there. So when we take all the Christian countries together, what are we going to get? Well, it doesn't seem Christianity is a motivating factor. We see this as more cultural. But when we look at the Islamic societies, we still see it vastly there
Dude, this is totally BS.
after it's weighed. So this still works against you.
Thank you for proving my point.
Hold up.
You literally just
He literally just proved her point.
proved my point.
My
that it's
point
literally,
that Islam is causing more problems?
my point is specifically that it cannot be tied to one particular thing, such as religion.
Once again, I never said
it
that.
cannot be a
did
sufficient
say
cause.
that.
Once again, I never said that.
Like you just said, when you were using the example of Brazil, you said culture, society, economics, all of these different things are factors, correct?
Brian, did I ever say
my
that one...
Appeal to Brian fallacy.
Did I ever say that Islam is the only cause of these
I
problems?
didn't say only. I said
Exactly.
sufficient
Thank
cause.
you.
You're
Thank
literally,
you.
you're
And
purposely not listening.
you keep trying to...
Have I said only
Sufficient.
or I said sufficient?
That is completely
Thank you,
irrelevant.
thank you. No,
So
it's
you keep
literally
strawmanning me.
not.
So you're strawmanning me.
I'm strawmanning you.
Yes, you
That's
are.
literally been my point since the beginning of when you first started your arguments. I'm
A
asking
sufficient
you.
cause?
Yes.
Yes, it is one of the sufficient causes.
Oh my God, that's not what a sufficient cause is.
Then
A
you're just
sufficient
defending it
cause-
out of existence.
No, a sufficient cause. A sufficient
primary
cause.
number one.
No, not even primary number one. It's
See, he doesn't
literally-
think what you're saying.
Okay, it literally means that it is sufficient. It is not. Nothing else is necessary in order for us to observe this particular thing to occur in a society.
And that's not
that
the
doesn't
point.
mean that other factors can't come into play and then increase this afterwards.
Exactly.
Okay, what you're supposed to
Exactly.
try and prove is that beyond 50%, let's say, okay, beyond a 50% chance, that every single time we observe Islam in a society, that this is the case that it's going to occur, and then the more these other factors are brought into play, the more we're going to see this particular thing occur. But you
Exactly.
haven't done that. All you're doing, hold on. All you're doing is picking at particular countries, particular rates, particular factors, and saying, oh, Islam is worse because of this. But then when we bring you to certain examples as it pertains to your own theology, as it pertains to your own book, as it pertains to the history of your beliefs, or
It's
not
just
your
crazy, man. Whenever I notice these things, right, especially being a revert myself, right, is every time you see it doesn't happen every time. I wouldn't say 100% of the time, but I swear it just from like a feeling point of view, like 90% of the time, see what hand he grabs the water with. And what hand he drinks it. He's been doing this the entire debate.
particular factors and saying, oh, Islam is worse because of this. But then
The entire debate, man. Just drink with the left hand, man. Drinks with the left hand. It's just funny. Whenever I watch these debates and they drink water, for whatever reason, I'm just so not. I wouldn't say hypersensitive, but I'm just like hyper focused on, what hand they drink the water with, right? What hand do like non-Muslims drink water with? He's been drinking with the left hand the entire time.
we bring you to certain examples as it pertains to your own theology, as it pertains to your own book, as it pertains to the history of your beliefs, or not your beliefs specifically, but Christianity in general, you don't address those things because those same things can be observed in those same countries, same history, same books, etc. So you have to actually engage with some of this stuff instead of just saying, well, it was just Islam.
So once again, I am not, because I didn't.
Same the experts that are saying Islam is growing. Yeah, facts. We are buying up the churches, and yeah, like I it's just, you know, like this is where I could see, like, you know, the atheists coming in and being like, oh, like, look, like, both of them are bad. I mean, dude, like, trying to attribute anything to a religion, like, on why, like, a society is immoral or moral, right? I mean, it comes down to the people, right? It's individual. Oh, what's up, Lanctus? Yeah, God bless you too. You know, it's, as we can see, like, you know, whether you, what, like, where is it? This wasn't it. No, I mean, yeah. Why is it a big? No, it's not a big deal. It's just like we drink with the right. Like we are, like Muslims, we call ourselves people of the right, right? And you know, we would say that the devil drinks with his left hand. And so we only drink and eat with our right hand. So it's just funny. I always see Christians in the debate, and sometimes like the way the camera is actually, this technically like sometimes the way the camera's facing, it's actually reversed. But there was a time when one of the Muslim brothers, he drank with his right hand. But it's just funny. I always notice it in these debates. You find the iron wall built by Alexander the Great. Yeah, no. That's not even proven that's Alexander the Great. It's probably more Cyrus the Great anyways.
Perform the studies, the experts did. They had the weighed factors, and they found Islam is a contributing factor in these instances. It is definitely making societies more violent, causing more abuse.
It's always nice seeing my fan club show up. It's always nice seeing y'all obsessed with me. Alhamdulillah.
Linked to more consanguineous marriages, more child marriage. These are all bad. And because of that, Islam is worse for societies. When we look at all the countries, what do we find? We don't just pick out UAE and Mexico. We look at all of them because we recognize in these countries there are other factors that are going to weigh those kinds of things. More wealth is going to cause less violence. Everyone agrees on that. But also, religious ideology is going to cause less or more violence. Religious ideology of Christianity, less, according to the research. Islam, more, according to the research. Go ahead.
Okay, so wealth is a cause of violence. So therefore, we should blame wealth. We should blame wealth. Someone wants to rob somebody else. So therefore, the problem is the money that he has.
What on earth are you talking about?
What I'm saying here is that your argument is a bit ridiculous to me.
The study research is ridiculous.
What I'm saying here is that you're basically trying to blame Islam for certain things. And so it's no different than blaming money. Well, if someone wants to do a robbery, usually blame money for that.
Sir, I agree that if you have less wealth, if you have a society that has less wealth, poverty is a contributing factor to more violence.
It's probably the largest factor.
Okay, I agree with you there. However, religious ideology does as well. For example.
All right. Just for the sake of argument. Okay. Let's do a new chat. If there had to be one, I just want to see what it says. Whatever it is, I'm not saying this is 100% truth either. I think this is just a fun little experiment, right? I know people get upset. If there had to be one main factor, economic, religious, cultural, political, whatever, anything that can be observed, race, I don't know, figure it out. What would you say is the number one reason to violence? But it's broader than economic. It can include land, food, water, wealth, political control, strategic territory, access to trade routes. So yeah, motivation, leaders, power, security, resources. So scarcity is the deepest observable driver of violence. Okay, the strongest single factor violence in history would be power and scarce resources. Religion, race, and ideology are often important, but they usually just amplify, justify, or organize or channel conflicts that also involve underlying struggles for power of resources, which Itachi, that's what she was saying, is that, that religion would be the amplifier of it, not the other way around. It wouldn't be religion as the primary reason and then wealth being the amplifier. It would be wealth and specifically scarcity being the primary reason, and then all of these other things, religion, race, and ideology being the amplifier above that.
Example, you guys communists? Anyone a communist here?
No.
Communism is bad, right? Okay, communism is an ideology that produces far inferior economic progress. So if you have communism in Russia, where they have a ton of resources, they had inferior economic progress. If you have communism in Somalia, where they don't have as much resource, that's going to produce even worse results. So when you take an ideology and infuse it in society, it's going to affect outcomes. When you take Christianity and you infuse it in America, okay, it's going to produce better results than if you did it with Islam. Now, if you go to, for example, like Ethiopia, which is poorer, less resources, it's going.
I mean, wasn't Stalin wasn't he like a priest boy?
Going to have worse results because of other factors. But ideology is still a contributing factor that's going to lead to more violence. That's my point. And by the way, I'm not saying that. The experts like Davis Brown are saying that. Monica Duffy Top, Jonathan.
Who are these people, bruv? Davis Brown. Who is Davis Brown, man? Yo, someone get a background check on Davis Brown.
Fox. These guys ran the numbers and they go, yep, Islam is definitely producing inferior societies because of things like conflict.
Okay. One small question. Do you think that if, for example, if we were to go back, let's say
they hate Christianity so much. Yeah. He was some priest boy or something. Stalin. That's just funny.
In the history, okay. And we were to observe that certain Islamic states or areas were more affluent, more progressive, more etc. Than Christian societies, where we observe things like, the Black Plague era or anything of the sort, whilst Islam has its thrive.
Was Stalin a priest boy? Let's see. Was Stalin a priest boy? Was born a shoemaker. His mother was deeply religious and was becoming of an Orthodox priest. She arranged for him to attend Orthodox school, where he excelled in studies. He entered into a theological seminary in the Georgian capital to prepare for priesthood. So yeah, he was going to be a priesthood. And then he read the Communist Manifesto, and then he killed millions of people, tens of millions of people, through his own sanctions and whatever, Gestapo or whatever, police state, all that stuff.
Thriving Islamic golden age. Would you say that Islam is going to be better than those Christian societies overall?
Only if you can
in those time periods?
Only if you can weigh out the other factors. Now you brought up Black Death, then I would say no, because they're clearly suffering from a horrible epidemic.
But it's not the reason as to why they're suffering from this epidemic is also due to things in regards to their own ways and traditions, etc., and culture.
That can influence one of the ways.
Right. So I'm asking you specifically that was just one.
Because my wife graduated from UC Berkeley. Yeah, that's where I graduated from. Let me move that. Right here. Yep. As you can see, University of California, my name, given at Berkeley. That's funny. Yeah, so your wife went to Berkeley, mashallah. Go Bears. We got something in common.
Example, but I'm saying generally speaking, okay, as it pertains to those societies, we know that there are certain societies that were Christian, that were affluent, and there were certain Islamic societies that you can't negate were also affluent and contributed many major things towards societies, correct? Do you at least agree with that?
Do I agree that Islamic societies have contributed?
Certain aspects of Islamic societies have contributed to beneficial things to society. Okay, good. Yeah. So there are certain times where those Islamic societies, for example, there is I could bring you the reference if you'd like. But essentially, there was two teachers in the Catholic Church where they got so worried to the point where they didn't want their students to be learning from individuals such as Averroes and Avicenna, the Islamic philosophers, because they felt like they were going to fall away from their faith due to the fact that they were so intellectually advanced. They were seen as geniuses, basically, of their time. And there are many other individuals who are like that. You have Al-Khwarizmi, you have Zawahiri, the father of surgery, the father of algorithms, etc., etc. All of these people have contributed major things, and inarguably in their time period, right, Islam was better than Christianity for society. Would you agree with that?
No.
Oh, you
No, I
don't agree
wouldn't.
with that?
I
So
would-
Christianity,
here's
when it
why-
was suffering, was better than
My
Islam.
goodness, they won't let me. I try to
Go
say
ahead,
it and I
go
try to
ahead.
expound. They won't do
No,
it.
go ahead,
No,
go.
because I already told you there are contributing factors that are going to weigh those kinds of things.
Right.
We can't take time machines back and do those. We can do those studies today, and we see that Christianity is producing better societies. So when you go into places like Europe, for example, during the Muslim Golden Age, you have to factor in all sorts of things like environmental aspects coming from the north, like more cold weather. Okay, those kind of like Norman invasions as well. Okay, these are contributing factors. So you just want to say, you want to do what's called a bivariate means comparison. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you just want to say, okay, we're observing progress during this Muslim Golden Age. We're not observing it there, therefore Islam is better. That's a bivariate means comparison. That's not a multivariable analysis.
Right, he was just saying, like, if you look at Christianity today, jeez, this is, oh man. All right, we might, like, we're probably gonna take a week off from reviewing these debates.
Okay, you can't do that.
He is the king of, like, you know, not like of blaming Islam and then like not like, you know, just totally deflecting, right, when it comes to Christianity.
Variable analysis, but we can't.
As yeah, I mean, if I were to give like, you know, a review of this, it's like, yeah, you know, I think particularly when it comes to his issues, right, his issues of child marriage, which again, child marriage, as we understand, walaikum salam, is legal in the United States, right? It's legal in 33 states. Obviously, it's bad. Obviously, it should be outlawed. Even he was saying that Christianity has outlawed it. Well, that's not the truth. It has not been outlawed in the United States, which is, I guess, you know, Christianity helped form this country. I wouldn't call it a Christian country anymore. The next issue, he only talked about. It seems like they only talked about two issues here. Let's see. The other issue was cousin marriages, and yeah, you know, supposedly this is a big issue in Brazil, which is obviously, you know, a predominantly Christian country. It does happen in, you know, I guess Pakistan. He was saying 65%, and so, but I think a lot of these more, you know, these terrible things that happen in society, it comes from wealth being the main issue, maybe even scarcity, less resources, less options for education, less, you know, just less resources overall.
And today, and what do we see? Islam is producing inferior societies. So at the end of the day, when we take the collection of history up to today, Christianity has produced better societies. It's just a fact. That's what the data shows.
Let's let you guys do closing statements.
Okay.
At the end of the day, there's a difference here. I'm citing data. I'm citing experts. And they're showing, yes, Islam is producing inferior societies. We got concessions here. You guys are okay with child marriage. Okay, that's wrong. There's more child marriage in the Middle East and North Africa in Islamic societies. You agree there's more cousin marriage in those societies. That produces negative results. So does all the child marriage. You agreed that societies that produce more abuse are bad. Guess what? The data shows Muslim communities and societies have more abuse. You agreed that more conflict is bad. Guess what? Muslim societies produce more conflict. So it doesn't matter what you say. At the end of the day, this is not even a debate.
Let's see what the comments say. Yeah, a lot of that. I'd like to know how many are bots.
I'm just presenting the data. You guys don't like the data. That's fine. I choose to follow the data.
Beautiful. Yeah, so just a quick comment on that. What we're showing is that your standard is arbitrary, right? So we didn't sort of say that, hey, we're saying that they're completely wrong. We're saying that it's going to be pseudo-scholarship. Why is it pseudo-scholarship? Because it's going to be referenced to a specific time period where we see other socioeconomic factors within these countries that would lead to these conclusions. Therefore, simply saying that Islam is going to be some kind of factor is not going to be enough, right? Why? Because if we're going to be just and we're looking at history, we can look at other sample sizes where there's going to be determined that Christianity is going to be worse according to your own standard. So this debate just shows you double standard, right? All we're saying is, hey, look, when you look at the standard, when you look at Christianity and Islam, throughout history, we said Islam will be better. What we're saying is that you're looking at specific samples at a specific time is going to be pseudo-scholarship. Not necessarily that these papers are wrong. That's what we're saying, right? If you guys want to take it over, go ahead.
There you go. Four closing statements.
Just to be fair.
You want to go?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so very simply, I don't think you actually understood some of the contentions that we brought to you. It was very clear when I kept saying sufficient the entire time, and you didn't get what I meant by sufficient, even though I clarified it multiple times. When it comes to the sufficiency of Islam and whether or not it is the main or contributing factor, right? That's the point that you actually have to address. It's not about whether or not it occurs in these particular societies, because as you already agreed, it occurs in other Christian societies as well, and it occurred in the past as well in Christian societies. So the appeal or the idea that it's occurring solely or more so in the Islamic societies is not going to be the case, because as you said, there's going to be particular factors that go into that, such that we don't observe the same thing occurring in Islamic societies that occur without these rates, okay, or without these particular factors. Now, in terms of what you were saying before about the historicity aspect, I'm not only comparing one being affluent versus one being, in a particular stricken hardship or anything of the sort. Obviously, there are other factors that come into play. And obviously, we can't observe every single one of those factors in the same way we can't observe every single factor today. We do it to the best of our ability. So whether it's back then, whether it's now, you observe things, or you observe data based off of the most things that you could extract out of it in its totality, right? So we can come to a conclusion that at some point, right, it could have been the case that Islamic societies were better than Christian societies due to XYZ reasons, right? In the same way that you're trying to cite these different sources now, where such that you're even though I don't even think that it's proper or has a good basis, you're saying that because of these particular factors that Islamic societies are worse, but you're not factoring in other things that could be worse in Christian societies but better in Islamic ones. For example, unity in regards to household, when it comes to actual individuals holding to the theology, whereas you keep saying Christian West. Christian West has a huge decline in regards to the religiosity aspect overall. This is like a rarity here, all of these people in this room. So, yeah, like...
It's a rarity. That's facts, though.
Like I said, there are certain factors that could be highlighted in terms of Islamic societies that are bad, but the same thing can be said for Christian societies as well, quote unquote Christian societies. But yeah.
I think that a lot of this debate was mostly just about you choosing arguments that I think are explicitly found in the Bible and then rejecting them and then using the argument that, well, it's not in the New Covenant, even though that Jesus explicitly does say that it is in Matthew 5:17-19, when he says to follow everything in the law and that they last eternally. And then in Matthew 23:1-3, he affirms everything of the law to his disciples, telling them to follow and keep it. The Greek literally saying keep and observe all that they say. Granting, that's not referring to man-made traditions. Even so, that would still be referring to the laws of the Torah to be followed today. So I just think that most of this debate was mostly just rejecting what the Bible teaches and arguing that Christians just don't really follow the bad verses in the Bible, historically.
So my perception is that much of this conversation was a lot of theatrics, and it just generated emotion. The thing is that from the Islamic perspective, is that God sent forth the Prophet Muhammad to a society, actually to the whole world, but he emerges in a society which had so many social problems. It had infanticide, female infanticide.
Yep.
It had worship while naked. It had worship of idols. It had worship of food items. It had many social problems. And the Prophet Muhammad's teachings not only reformed that society, but becomes the genesis for a new civilization. And this is really the most important aspect. So arguing about small details here and there are really irrelevant into the big picture. The big picture is that Islam revived interest in scientific fields. Islam revived interest in philosophy. Islam became the foundation for progress for the world.
Thank you guys. That was awesome.
Today on Beta Squad.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good summary of what they were saying. Cool. All right, so yeah, we're gonna end it here. I've already kind of said my main points of this debate, anyways, and I think they summarize it perfectly. My next stream is gonna be Tuesday, inshallah. But yeah, thank you guys all for joining. I hope everyone has a great weekend coming up. Take advantage of it. Spend time with family, inshallah. But yeah, may Allah put blessings into everything you guys do. We're gonna end it here, and I'll catch you guys on Tuesday.